501. Ninjas have their limits. Liang Mu Yue. I won't do it after the Paradise Box opened. Mu Yue's main body was the first to enter the underground research base. Yang Mu Yue, what's going on? Did Konoha attack? The grass ninja, who hadn't been sucked into the box, stared in terror at the newcomer. The Paradise Box has been opened. Even Yang Mu Yue won't be able to stop it after the wish is granted, a higher-ranking grass ninja reported, hurriedly. He reasoned the Paradise Box was the ultimate 6 Paths 9 tool capable of granting a world-changing wish. It shouldn't be something a single young prodigy from the 5 great shinobi villages could handle. Mu Yue didn't bother answering them. He let his presence sweep over the room, then walked toward Xuan Hua Ling. As soon as his main body arrived, one of his shadow clones moved deliberately toward the deep, dark entrance and slipped inside the Paradise Box. Mu Yue's senses told him that the box probably couldn't block the Flying Thunder God technique, but he was cautious. He had to test it. A second later, the clone materialized beside Karen. That confirmed it. Anyone who had mastered the Flying Thunder God technique could enter the Paradise Box and still leave at will. The clone completed its mission and willingly dispersed, sending its memories back to the main body. Kakashi and Obito poured into the base right after. Ah, Mu Yue-sensei! You've already handled this, Obito blurted as he surveyed the fallen grass ninja. He'd rushed in using the breathing technique at full speed, fearful Mu Yue's power would finish the job before he arrived, but he still hadn't made it in time. Is this the so-called Paradise Box? Kakashi's gaze skimmed past the bodies and landed on the enormous, bizarre box dominating the room. That blast that tore through the clouds, was that from it? What exactly is it? A large-scale attack nin tool? Nara Suzaku inspected the box as well. The Paradise Box's nature is still unclear, Mu Yue said, shaking his head. But the mission isn't over. The leader of the grass village has gone into the box. On Mu Yue's word, Shibi Aburame sent a portion of his insects into the dark entrance to scout. The insects lost contact, Shibi reported. The moment his insects entered the box, his connection to them vanished, as if they'd disappeared. Send a shadow clone in to take a look, Obito offered. Hearing the leader might still be alive, his spirit brightened. He didn't want to send his main body into such a strange object. This box is suspicious. Let's try with a clone first, Kakashi agreed, preparing to send one with Obito. Then a figure stepped out of the deep darkness. He's still alive. Kakashi was instant with a kunai, ready. The man who emerged was unmistakably Yokogawa Tsutomu, leader of the grass village. Yokogawa Tsutomu walked out slowly, his aura oddly warped. Wu Chang, I am the chief. He was a little stunned by the scene. He wasn't surprised his underlings lay beaten. Their chakra was insufficient to stand against a full-strength Wu Chang. What shocked him was the sudden appearance of 8 Konoha shinobi. Had he been inside the box for a long time? Had Konoha attacked while he was sealed? Yang Mu Yue? Excellent. I'll use you to test this new power. Yokogawa fixed on the most dazzling ninja in the room. Before, he would have assumed a 3-7 split favored Mu Yue. But things had changed. The Paradise Box had enhanced him, shattering the limits of a normal ninja and raising him to something higher. He no longer feared Mu Yue, not even the Yellow Flash and the 3 top Konoha ninjas together would faze him. I have already sublimated into a god. Yokogawa's face shone with triumph as power flooded him. Obito scratched his head at the arrogance. Testing his divine strength against Mu Yue? He didn't look smart. Grass-hidden style, exploding fist. Yokogawa condensed chakra around his fist and lunged. Bang! The explosive impact sent Yokogawa rocketing backward, slamming him hard into the Paradise Box. Okugawa Tamamu. Chakras. Fire Release Chakra. Nature Transformation. Mastery 2850,000. Mu Yue flexed his hand and inwardly shook his head. Yokogawa bragged about godhood, but had only a handful of mastery-level skills and mediocre proficiency. Mu Yue even worried he might accidentally kill Yokogawa if he hit him too hard. Obito's face said, as expected. Kakashi's mouth twitched. He had nearly triggered Kamui. Yokogawa had been fast, but he'd chosen Mu Yue as his opponent. Yokogawa lurched to his feet in fury. This was wrong. He was so strong and yet couldn't land a hit on Mu Yue. Yang Mu Yue actually has skill. You are worthy to witness the true form of a powerful being. Yokogawa's confidence returned as he regained control. The power from the Paradise Box hadn't been truly unleashed. Mu Yue might be strong, but Yokogawa felt certain he now stood above mortality. A ninja has limits. Come and feel the power of a god. With a roar, Yokogawa's body grotesquely warped. Thick black hair erupted from his skin. His flesh bloated and reshaped until he became a huge, black-haired monster with enormous wings. Rumble. The underground base's ceiling collapsed under his bulk as he thrashed, and debris rained down. With a few wing beats, the base was converted into an open pit. Mu Yue watched Yokogawa's chakra spike. The real battle has only begun, the transformed Yokogawa laughed. Speed, strength, defense, all had jumped to a new level. He didn't believe any ninja could best him now. Die! Yokogawa dove like a black shadow, the wind from his wings clearing the ground of rubble and whipping up destruction. Fire release, great fireball technique. Kakashi and Shisui with Obito formed seals and launched ninjutsu, but Yokogawa avoided them. Shadow imitation technique, secret technique, insect tornado. Water release, water dragon bullet technique. Nara Suzaku, Kosuke Maraboshi, and the others attacked in quick succession. But before Nara's shadow imitation could fully take effect, Mu Yue flashed above the transformed Yokogawa and struck with a chakra-laced punch. Exploding fist. Boom! The monster crashed to the ground, cracks snaking away from the impact. Yokogawa coughed up a mouthful of blood, eyes blazing with pain and disbelief. Flying Thunder God technique. He can still use it in here? He racked his mind for information. He'd only known Mu Yue shared the Flying Thunder God technique, like the Yellow Flash. He hadn't expected this level of taijutsu. Standalone, his current body was 100 times stronger than before. Yet one punch from Mu Yue had left him spitting blood. This was mountain-moving power. The shadow imitation managed to hit him, and he took a water dragon bullet and an insect tornado squarely, but the attack oddly comforted him. Not because it hurt him less, but because it proved Mu Yue was inhumanly strong, an odd, almost alien-level opponent. Yokogawa, relying on his brute strength and chakra, broke free from the shadow imitation's control and roared, "Paradise Box! Assimilate Habsheng Mugetsu!" Mu Yue's Flying Thunder God technique was proving too troublesome to counter directly, so Yokogawa appealed to the Paradise Box that had empowered him. If the being inside could assimilate, why try to absorb Yokogawa? It could have just taken Mu Yue and smashed the box from within. But since being sealed by the Six-Path Sage, the box no longer had the power to take on another enlightened being. It could still, however, try to control a human. 3 of the box's masks shifted. Their mouths widened to the maximum, and a terrifying suction force roared outward, aimed straight at Mu Yue. Some of the fallen grass ninja were caught in the pull and began to be swallowed. Mu Yue himself drifted toward the mouth of darkness, drawn by the force. Long Fei arrived at that moment, leading reinforcements just in time to see the Paradise Box devour the grass ninja and to witness the monstrous Yokogawa in the sky. "Quick, save them," Long Fei barked. Whatever else was happening, saving their people came first. He underestimated the box's suction. A chuunin who tried to drag a wounded grass ninja to safety was instantly ripped into the maw along with them. Mu Yue paused, glanced back at his approaching disciples, and then shook his head. He gestured them to stand back and allowed himself to be drawn into the box. He wasn't afraid. He could use Flying Thunder God to exit at any moment. He could combine Transparent World and Byakugan and lightning-enhanced chakra to react instantly to even the slightest disturbance. There might be beings in the ninja world he couldn't defeat outright, but none could prevent his escape. As Mu Yue slipped inside, the box's suction eased and its surface returned to a deceptive calm. Yokogawa watched Mu Yue disappear into the darkness and laughed out loud. No matter how strong Ryeyang Mu Yue was, could he be stronger than the treasure left by the Six-Path Sage? "Laughing like you've won the war," Obito said, rubbing his hands. He wasn't overly worried. Mu Yue had gone in on his own. "Be careful. This one is very strong. He's only been getting beaten because Mu Yue-sensei is stronger," Kakashi warned soberly. Even if Yokogawa couldn't use ninjutsu in this state, his brute strength and speed made him dangerous. Where did Yokogawa go? Is he captured? Long Fei searched the scene, failing to find the leader in human form. The big monster in front of you is the Yokogawa you're looking for, Shisui said, then stopped to pour chakra into a bent spoon, rapidly refining it. When fighting, morals could be set aside, whatever it took to win. Longfei blinked at the hulking, grotesque figure. He had assumed it was some summoned nine beast. It turned out to be Yokogawa himself. Longfei, I overestimated you. You're only this capable. You couldn't even recognize your arch-enemy after defeating him, Yokogawa sneered. Longfei stared. This wasn't just Yokogawa changed. This was a monster wearing Yokogawa's memories. The real Yokogawa would never have butchered his comrades like this. Yokogawa, surrender. Konoha knows everything about you. Keep this up and the grass village will be destroyed, Longfei called, hoping to minimize the damage and cut his losses. How laughable. What if Konoha knows? Mu Yue has already been handled by me. I have surpassed humanity. The grass village need not fear Konoha, Yokogawa replied with contempt. He wanted the paradise box to devour more nourishment, more grass ninja, so it could assimilate them. Then the grass village would rule the ninja world. All grass ninja, obey! Kill the Konoha shinobi, he commanded. Longfei had summoned as many grass ninja as he could. Not all of them were loyal to Longfei's faction, and now they hesitated. If Yokogawa had spoken in his normal voice, they would have obeyed instantly, but this monstrous form gave them pause. With a flicker, Yokogawa blinked before one hesitant grass ninja. His enormous claws slashed down, cutting the man into pieces. Blood spattered everywhere. Only those who betray me will die, Yokogawa intoned, shaking the blood from his claws. Longfei watched, horrified and blank. The realization hit him. The real Yokogawa was gone. This thing was just a monster wearing his name and memories. With Shisui's chakra finally restored, he looked to Obito and Kakashi. They had stalled long enough. It was time to act. 502. A thoughtless knife. Shisui pushed chakra into his eyes until the blood-red three-tomoe Sharingan flared. He swept its vision across Yokogawa Tsutomu's entire body at lightning speed. But what he saw, or rather didn't see, was baffling. There were no visible eyes on Yokogawa Tsutomu, and yet the creature's sight was normal, even keener than usual. Shisui suspected the eyes existed, but they were hidden in a way the Sharingan couldn't detect. If the Sharingan can't find them, ordinary visual genjutsu won't work, Shisui concluded, feeling a prickle of unease. His ocular power had reached its limit without locating any focal point to exploit. If he couldn't trap Yokogawa in genjutsu, he at least needed to neutralize the other grass village shinobi. They could still be turned against them under Tsutomu's influence. Those who can't break genjutsu, close your eyes, he whispered, forming seals. He couldn't hope to ensnare Yokogawa Tsutomu, but he could put the supporting grass ninja to sleep. Nirvana Temple Technique. Phantom feathers rained down as Shisui released chakra. The sight of them washed over the grass ninja. Many staggered, sank to their knees, and collapsed into slumber. When the technique faded, only 3 remained standing. Shisui had expected that. Nirvana Temple was wide-range but thin on per-target potency, even with the bent spoon's boost. Fire release, Phoenix Sage Flower Claw Crimson. Obito roared, channeling a heavy surge of chakra into his throat. A sheet of flame spat forth, and the shuriken he launched through it became blazing orbs. They fanned out like a net toward Yokogawa Tsutomu. Kakashi sprinted forward, 2 kunai humming with lightning in each hand. A pack of good-for-nothings. You'll end up as food for the box later. The new grass village doesn't need you, Yokogawa Tsutomu sneered, his huge wings beating. He hunched and melted into a black shadow, sidestepping Obito's fire net. Even with his strange body, he'd learned enough to avoid taking ninjutsu head-on. Secret technique, Insect Sphere. Shibi Aburame pushed his chakra to the brink. A black mist of parasitic insects spilled from him and lunged for Yokogawa. But Yokogawa was fast. He climbed higher, evading the swarm. Shadow imitation technique. Narasuzaku sent his shadow racing after Yokogawa's. Though Yokogawa was airborne, his shadow still lay on the ground, and yet in an instant he flapped his wings and retreated to a distance beyond the shadow technique's reach. Kakashi, circling behind, launched. 4 lightning-infused kunai sliced the air toward Yokogawa's wings. If he could wound those wings, it would blunt the monster's mobility. Shisui watched, but Yokogawa twisted with uncanny agility and avoided the blades. Does he have something like the transparent world? Kakashi thought, frowning. for such a bulky form to dodge so perfectly. Kakashi, who knew the transparent world's intricacies, understood how hard it was to contend with an opponent who could anticipate movement. Fire release, Ghost Lantern. Long Fei condensed over 30 ghostly fireballs and hurled them. Several impacted Yokogawa, exploding and scorching his flesh. Kakashi blinked. Long Fei shouldn't have hit him when Kakashi's own attack timing had been even better. Long Fei, you're courting death, Yokogawa thundered, claws flashing as he dove straight for Long Fei's position. Earth release, Earth flow wall. With the transparent world active, Kakashi read the move and formed seals. A massive dog-headed earthen wall rose before Long Fei. Yokogawa's claws struck it, spiderwebbing cracks across its surface. Long Fei had already body flickered away. The wall shattered where he had stood, and a crater formed. Kosuke Maraboshi gathered chakra in his feet and unleashed a Batojutsu slash. Yokogawa blocked with one claw and swung his other hand toward Kosuke. "Backpack, uncle! Watch out!" Obito shouted, seeing it ahead with his Sharingan. Kosuke, a veteran, met the blow with practiced economy. He absorbed Yokogawa's force, flashed back, and evaded. Kakashi and the others seized the opening and pressed their attacks again, but their blows slid off Yokogawa's defenses. Even Rin Nohara, who'd been watching over Xuanhualing, struck and missed. Yokogawa couldn't land a killing blow either. Kakashi's foresight kept saving his teammates with preemptive ninjutsu. Yokogawa, feeling his wounds knitting closed, decided it was time to change targets. "I need to deal with that white-haired brat first," he thought. If Mu Yue's blow hadn't crippled him earlier, he'd have been faster and deadlier. Kakashi's mind raced. Why had Long Fei's fire hit when so many others hadn't? He suspected emotion, not skill, had been the variable. Summoning technique, Rin chose then to let Katsuyu take charge of the unconscious Xuanhualing. A summoning seal flared. A white mist coalesced into a Katsuyu large enough to match Rin's chakra output. "Katsuyu-sama, please take care of her and keep her safe," Rin begged with respect. The Shikatsu Forest's Katsuyu varied with each contractor's chakra. Rin summoned a split of the Great Sage, not the full original, but it was enough. "Katsuyu-sama?" Rin's summon blinked and then peered at the giant black monster with shock. "Rin, how did you encounter Satori? With your current strength, even its puppet could overwhelm you." Katsuyu, who'd existed since the Six Paths era, saw through Yokogawa's nature at once. Satori can perceive the hearts of those who fear. Even a faint thought like, "This guy's frightening," will be sensed. Only by fighting without even a trace of fear can one avoid that. Rin froze. Such a requirement was brutal. People couldn't so easily purge instinctive fear at the sight of razor claws and a wall-tearing maw. Still, the information was vital. Rin relayed it. "What the hell? There's no way I'm afraid of that ugly thing," Obito snapped. He resented the implication his misses were due to some inner thought. He simply wanted glory, to beat Kakashi and win praise. "If even imperceptible fear counts, any of us might be red," Kakashi said calmly. He found the ability problematic, not humiliating. He now had a rough theory why Long Fei's fire had landed. Long Fei hadn't felt fear. He'd felt raw anger and regret, emotions that steeled him rather than opened him to Satori's sight. Kakashi could imagine Long Fei's state easily. He thought of Obito too. If Obito became a monster someday, even if he was terrifying, Kakashi wouldn't be afraid. He'd only feel the determination to kill, mixed with regret. That composition might make one invisible to Satori's insight. "Katsuyu, can you heal?" Kakashi asked. He knew Rin's contract, but not the limits. "Yes," Rin answered. "Katsuyu-sama has healing and can transmit chakra to heal others." Katsuyu's restorative power was exceptional. Tsunade had once boasted that at Rin's level, with Katsuyu's aid, she could tend an entire army. Rin split off a piece of Katsuyu and put it on Kakashi's back. "Be ready to heal at any time," Kakashi ordered, eyeing the battlefield with transparent world active. Time favored Yokogawa. Their sustained output was draining them, while Yokogawa's regeneration was bringing him back toward full strength. He needed to gamble and try to end this before the balance tipped. Their team, Kakashi reminded himself, was formidable. Shisui, Obito, and he were elite jonin in burst power. Rin and Nara's utility in chaotic fights was invaluable. Even without Mu Yue, they'd be strong opponents. Kakashi started to control his inner thoughts deliberately, flattening emotion so his mind would be harder to read. As he did, his attacks grew sharper, more aggressive. He'd forced Yokogawa to adjust many times. If Yokogawa valued survival, he'd try to kill Kakashi first. Yokogawa had been playing scattershot, gauging them. When Kakashi pushed forward to draw him out, Yokogawa feigned an attack at Obito, then turned and launched a targeted strike at Kakashi. Kakashi anticipated and raised an earthflow wall for himself. "Die, you hateful white-haired brat!" Yokogawa choked, a torrent of chakra through his throat that shattered the wall, and then his claws sliced at Kakashi. The strike connected. Lightning-breathed speed wasn't enough. Kakashi felt a burning, gushing wound across his abdomen. Katsuyu immediately poured healing. Rin, through the split Katsuyu on Kakashi's back, applied remote medical ninjutsu. Kakashi didn't care about the injury or the healing. He had emptied himself completely. No fear, no pride, no thought. Absolute mental blankness. That was the plan. He would use Yokogawa's pressure, the full weight of the monster's intent, to deliver one thoughtless, emotionless strike. 503. Breath of Thunder Chakra Pattern Slow. As Kakashi raised his sword, Yokogawa Tsutomu's movements seemed to lag in Kakashi's perception. Kakashi didn't think about it. He simply did what his training had drilled into him until it was automatic. Buzzing. Kakashi's chakra instantly shifted into lightning release. Brilliant sparks crackled around him as lightning flowed down his arm into the White Fang short sword, creating a blade of pure electricity. Is his next move a swing? Yokogawa Tsutomu sensed something wrong. Normally, he could predict Kakashi's motions before they happened. He tried to leave at extreme speed, but it was already too late. Kakashi swung the lightning blade, a single thoughtless slash, the one thought cut. Purple arc light flashed. The lightning strike cut through the air with terrifying speed and slammed into Yokogawa Tsutomu as he fled. The blade didn't merely slice, it corroded every cell it touched. Yokogawa Tsutomu screamed in agony as his body was torn apart. Explosions rocked the ground around him. At the center of the strike, he was split cleanly in two at the waist. This guy, when did he get so strong? Obito's eyes went wide. Yokogawa Tsutomu, the one who'd forced so many of them into desperate battles, had been bisected with a single sword stroke. It reminded Obito of the time Kakashi had unexpectedly killed a mist jonin in one blow during the chuunin exams. He wanted to accuse Kakashi of cheating. Surely Kakashi had some hidden bloodline power that erupted when he was grievously hurt. "What a slash," Kosuke Maruboshi said in surprise. He'd fought alongside White Fang. White Fang slaughtered Shinobi like they were vegetables, but this kind of technique, combining lightning release with swordsmanship, was something different. It showed Kakashi wasn't only following his father's way. "Impressive," Shibuya Barame said, pushing up his sunglasses. He knew a blow like that would kill anyone unfortunate enough to be struck head-on. Longfei watched the two-halved Yokogawa with a complicated expression. He had wanted to kill Yokogawa himself. Seeing this monstrous enemy felled by a young Konoha ninja filled him with a conflicted surge of emotion. Yokogawa had dragged the whole grass village down a dangerous path to get stronger, and yet he'd fallen to Konoha's elite. "Lightning-breathing chakra mode?" Shisui murmured after observing. Kakashi's slash was absurdly strong, but if Transparent World was layered with lightning-breathing chakra mode and the lightning sword art Mu Yue had taught him, such power would make sense, at the cost of enormous chakra. As expected, Kakashi didn't get 3 seconds of glory before he tipped backward and fell. Rin immediately rushed forward, activating medical ninjutsu, while Katsuyu moved to assist. Obito flashed with body flicker and reached Kakashi's side to help him up before Rin had to. Pain registered on Kakashi's face now. When he'd swung the blade, he hadn't felt it, but the severity of his abdominal injury hit him afterward. Without Rin and Katsuyu's treatment, he likely would have gone into shock after performing the one-thought cut. The combination of grievous wounds and massive chakra drain had left him in rough shape. Inside, Kakashi reflected. The one-thought cut, powered by lightning-breathing chakra mode, consumed almost all his chakra. He could only use it once. Even at peak condition and without using any other jutsu, he'd be near worthless after that single slash. Opponents wouldn't foolishly clash with him. They'd try to exhaust his chakra beforehand to prevent that final blow. So the timing of the one-thought cut was everything. If he used it, it had to count, to severely wound or neutralize the enemy. This lightning-breathing chakra mode is a huge gain, Kakashi admitted inwardly. Combined with transparent world, his strength, speed, and lightning release were elevated. The trip to the grass village had paid off. If he could truly master the one thought cut, maybe he could even challenge Metkai. Are you doing this on purpose, Kakashi? You can't use jutsu unless you're badly injured, can you? Obito grumbled, looking at Kakashi's wound. Seeing Kakashi's power spike when hurt worried Obito. What chance did he have in the internal matches now? Kakashi, weak and irritated, rolled his eyes at Obito. Rin worked quickly, and Katsuyu's aid kept him stable. Longfei walked over relieved that Kakashi still had a lively expression. If Kakashi had died, Longfei would have had to sacrifice himself with dragon life reincarnation to keep the village's honor and avoid Ryeyang Muye's wrath. No one knew how Konoha would react if grass lost such a prodigy. Longfei approached Yokogawa's severed body, remembering their old rivalry. He tried to steady his thoughts and formed seals to use fire release. He intended to burn Yokogawa to ashes to prevent this monster from dying in a warped form. The commotion had drawn the whole grass village, but no civilian dared approach the grotesque figure. Fire release, ghost lantern, Longfei called, releasing the jutsu. Suddenly, Yokogawa's upper body moved. His huge hand snatched Longfei, his wings beating as he flew straight toward the paradise box. Everyone was shocked. His vitality's tenacious. He's not dead? Nara Suzaku exclaimed. Kakashi's slash had severed him cleanly. There should have been no lingering connection, yet he still moved. Kakashi, everyone, don't panic, Kakashi said hoarsely. If Yokogawa could still fight like before, he could exploit Kakashi's weakness. Kakashi guessed the monster's physiology was letting him survive, but said he was not in much better shape. Shisui body flickered to Kakashi's side and reopened his Sharingan, watching Yokogawa carefully. The monster hovered above the paradise box with Longfei in his claws. Longfei, sacrifice your life's blessing and use dragon life reincarnation on me. I'll recover and kill all these Konoha ninja, Yokogawa snarled. Grass Village will remember you. Your descendants will be rewarded. Longfei sneered. You're delusional. You don't deserve my life. Yokogawa slammed Longfei down in front of the paradise box and raged. Why do you always oppose me? I'm making Grass Village great. I'm its leader. Longfei stood firm. Kakashi and the others seized every second to refine chakra. Shibi hatched more insects. Nara Suzaku deliberately held a middle distance, close enough to intervene, far enough to avoid being grabbed. They couldn't risk their lives for an outsider when the village had already conspired with Iwagakure against Konoha. Desperate, Yokogawa tried to contact the paradise box. Help me heal or control Longfei to revive me, but the box was silent. No matter how hard he tried, it didn't respond. Shisui scanned the box entrance with his Sharingan but couldn't penetrate the interior darkness. He guessed the box's inside might not match its outside dimensions. If Mu Yue were inside, the fight would surely have been loud. Inside the chaos, Xuanhualing woke and looked around dazedly. Rin explained the situation to her through Katsuyu. Yokogawa hissed, "If you won't help me, I'll kill your family." He tightened his grip on Longfei and threatened to force Longfei into reviving him with his family's lives. Then try, Longfei said coldly. Even if Yokogawa spared his family, the Konoha force coming later would still slaughter the grass villagers. Shibi and Nara readied to intercept. If Yokogawa fully recovered, the battle would be uncertain. He beat his wings and rose into the air, then a golden figure flashed above him. Kakashi, Shisui, and the others' eyes lit up. Obito, now in flame-breathing chakra mode, quickly fell back. Yokogawa's fate suddenly looked sealed. 504, kill with one sword. When Mu Yue stepped into the paradise box, he was greeted by utter blackness. Yet with all of his perception techniques, total darkness meant nothing. He could tell the space inside was far larger than the physical box. That lined up with what he suspected. This was the work of the Six-Paths Sage. Hagoromo had made a moon to seal Kaguya. A specially expanded box was nothing by comparison. He moved through that interior, feeling around for the sealing technique from the inside, a different perspective from when he'd studied it externally. A hoarse voice echoed from everywhere at once. Human, do you seek endless life and boundless power? Offer enough chakra and I can grant any wish. Grant any wish? Could you restore the Six-Paths Sage? Mu Yue asked. As he spoke, the darkness seemed to pulse with a faint red glow. The voice answered after a moment. Yes. With sufficient chakra, any desire can be fulfilled. Mu Yue's expression hardened. Then my wish is to gain the power to grant wishes. Silence answered him. The entity in the box had been sealed for ages. It had never met someone like Mu Yue. It wanted to trick him, pressure him into wasting chakra, until it realized it couldn't control him. It finally said, to make a wish, you must gather enough chakra. You may first offer the chakra in your body to the box. You yourself carry much. Mu Yue flicked a flying thunder god kunai in a direction, and the thing inside reacted, surprised that someone could locate it in absolute blackness. It raised a claw to bat the kunai away, but Mu Yue activated Flying Thunder God and appeared right before its talons. He threw a fist charged with armament hockey and an exploding fist technique. The thing's steel-like claws shattered under the impact. It howled in pain and staggered. It tried to recover, pouring energy into regenerating itself, and then lashed out with a beam of chakra. Mu Yue used Flying Thunder God to intercept, punching it again and planting a teleport mark on its body. He drew Enma, fed it chakra and armament hockey, shifted from rock breathing to lightning breathing, and moved with lethal speed. 6 slashes fell in an instant, severing its 2 legs, 2 feet, and wings. Who are you? It gasped. Even inside its own domain, Mu Yue had left a mark and shown strength that was hard to comprehend. The creature, accustomed to dominating in that darkness, was baffled by Mu Yue's calmness and his ability to operate there. Mu Yue only shook his head. I thought the Six-Path Sage did this. Turns out, too weak. Its true form, Mu Yue realized, was far less formidable than he'd expected, not even on the level of a tailed beast. The creature raged, yelling about Hagoromo sealing it for thousands of years, and launched a berserk attack. Mu Yue read every move and with a few strokes removed more limbs. It spat. Morio, Hagoromo could only seal us, not kill us. Pride filled its voice, and Mu Yue answered with a backhand that took off its head. The body kept twitching. Its vitality was strong. Different from Hedon, who needed to reattach parts, this thing simply regrew. Fire release! Fire dragon flame bullet! Mu Yue breathed, blasting a section of it into black ash. After a while, it regenerated a new body. The creature muttered that being sealed by a priestess didn't prove Hagoromo had done it, but the words were muddled. Either it was mentally dulled by its long confinement, or simply not very smart. When flattery and threats failed, it switched tactics. Humans have limits, it said, trying to bargain. Even if you rival Hagoromo, you won't live forever. Break my seal and I'll grant you true immortality. Mu Yue was unmoved. If he wanted longevity, he'd rely on his own developments, or Orochimaru, never on this inhuman parasite. He kept examining the sealing inscriptions. The technique inside was different from the Yang seal he was developing, but it was a seal created by Hagoromo himself. By studying it, Mu Yue could refine his own sealing skill. Paradise Box, please help me recover from my injuries. Came an anxious shout then, the voice of Yokogawa Tsutomu at the box's entrance. The entity in the box twitched. It had no desire or ability to heal Tsutomu, but it sensed a decent chakra signature at the mouth of its prison. As it prepared to drag Longfei inside, 2 slashes cut through its body, slicing it into 3 pieces and halting its spell. It glared at Mu Yue in fury. Even Hagoromo had never been humiliated like this. Mu Yue paid the thing no mind. Useless, he thought, a waste of space. Having learned enough from the seal and found nothing of value in the creature's memories, he left. Whoosh. In a blink, Mu Yue reappeared above the box, and then above Yokogawa Tsutomu. With a single swing of Enma, he cut off the arm Tsutomu was using to hold Longfei. The man cried out, and when he looked up and saw Mu Yue, terror warped his face. Mu Yue's presence carried an unbearable weight. His earlier bout with Kakashi had already shown what he could do. Box, seal Habsheng Mugetsu again, lock him in! Tsutomu begged the Paradise Box. From inside, the mask sneered. Seal him in to be cut up? Delusions, it thought. With Mu Yue there, revival of the creature was impossible. Mu Yue didn't parley. He grabbed Tsutomu, tossed him into the Grass Village main district, then braced Enma and poured in lightning release chakra. He unleashed a true thoughtless blade, purple lightning arcing and detonating. Yokogawa Tsutomu instantly turned to black ash as the slash carved a scorched trench over 30 meters long into the earth. The villagers gaped, some rubbing their eyes as if dreaming. They recognized a Konoha forehead protector and wondered why a Konoha ninja would be fighting here. Nearby, other shinobi watched in awe. Kakashi clenched his teeth. Seeing Mu Yue's thoughtless blade made his own version feel pale by comparison. Obito, bathed in envy and frustration, muttered about how fire release seemed weak. He'd never seen S-rank fire techniques in this world. Shisui pondered whether he should learn a new chakra nature. Nara Suzaku compared Mu Yue to Minato and found Mu Yue's raw destructive capacity superior in some ways. Kosuke Maraboshi, who'd seen many prodigies, felt Mu Yue was in a class of his own for his age. Back at the Paradise Box, the mask's wide mouth snapped shut, and the container sealed itself again. Mu Yue noted that the box isolated its space when dormant. He couldn't re-enter by Flying Thunder God right away, though he could sense the mark he'd left inside. With effort, he could return later. For now, the box was a sealed threat. Mu Yue added a layer of Zhou-Tian sealing to its surface, enough to isolate the entity's power so that, even if someone tried to sacrifice to it, it couldn't absorb chakra and assimilate others. With the Paradise Box secured, Mu Yue turned his attention to the remaining matters in the Grass Ninja Village and Iwagakure. Chapter 505, Support the Battlefield. Most of Yokogawa Tsutomu's confidants had been consumed by the Paradise Box. With Grass Flower at his side, Longfei quickly took control of the Grass Ninja Village and became its temporary leader. Once in charge, he explained what had happened. The former leader, Yokogawa Tsutomu, had turned to forbidden research. The experiments failed, transforming him into an inhuman monster that slaughtered many grass ninja. With the help of the righteous Konoha shinobi, they had finally defeated the abomination and saved the village. To thank Konoha for their assistance, Grass Ninja Village would sign a friendship treaty and become Konoha's ally. The villagers learned who had slain the monster, the famed Ryang Mu Yue of the ninja world. The news left most villagers hopeful. Grass Ninja Village was rising and standing if it could forge ties with a top village like Konoha. A small minority muttered that Longfei had colluded with outsiders to seize power. For troublemakers like that, Longfei usually locked them up for a few days until they cooled off. While Longfei handled village affairs, Mu Yue transmitted mission intelligence back to Konoha and prepared for the next step. The actual treaty negotiations would be handled by Hiruzen Sarutobi's specialists, but being Konoha's new ally meant the Grass Ninja needed to act on Konoha's side in the war. Grass Ninja would be ordered to backstab Iwagakure to give Konoha an immediate battlefield advantage. Payment and compensation could wait. Mu Yue and his team would serve as a surprise force to support Konoha directly and try to defeat the Iwa contingent in one decisive strike. Before leaving Grass Ninja Village, Mu Yue, ever mindful of his duties as a Konoha shinobi, talked with Xuan Wohua Ling of the Vortex Clan for a while. The Vortex Clan is a perennial Konoha ally, he said bluntly. If you want, after the mission, I can bring you to Konoha. It's safer there than staying in Grass Ninja Village during wartime. Mu Yue didn't believe any place in the ninja world was truly safe, but if he had to compare, Konoha was relatively stable. Even when multiple great villages clashed, the flames rarely spread deep into the land of fire. Ordinary people in Konoha could live peacefully unless something extraordinary happened. Xuan Wowaling hesitated. She knew little of Konoha beyond distant memories of adults mentioning the clan's prosperity. She worried whether her Uzumaki identity and unique physiology might bring trouble. Hearing that there was an Uzumaki in Konoha, however, eased her. Mu Yue had briefly mentioned Kushina. With so few Uzumaki left in the world, any clan member could be like family. Then I'll trouble you when the time comes, she said, no longer hesitant. After settling matters in Grass Ninja Village, Mu Yue led his squad to the Konoha forces' camp in the Grass Country. As soon as they arrived, Jiraiya greeted them with a laugh and a friendly pat on Mu Yue's shoulder. Mu Yue, you made it. With you and Minato, the strongest of Konoha's new generation, helping out, I might finally get a vacation. Jiraiya had already heard of Mu Yue's deployment. He glanced at Mu Yue's team and nodded with approval. They were all capable shinobi. Seeing Obito, Jiraiya couldn't resist a tease. Goggles, kid, call me Grandmaster. Let's hear it. This was their second meeting. Jiraiya had first met Obito during a C-rank mission accident and had been impressed. Obito, who had once refused to call Jiraiya a sage, had since become Minato's student, and Minato was Jiraiya's disciple. By seniority, Jiraiya could legitimately call himself Obito's grandmaster. Obito, however, was displeased. "Oh, hello, Toad Uncle," he said impudently. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow. "Toad Sage or Grandmaster, pick one and call me that, and I'll forgive you." "Okay, Toad Uncle," Obito agreed with a straight face. He still couldn't bring himself to call Jiraiya a sage. Jiraiya laughed and, only half joking, pointed at Obito. "By the way, the camp's logistics are a bit short. From now on, camp sanitation is your responsibility, Goggles Kid." Obito's eyes widened. Was the legendary Sannin really picking on an 11-year-old? Shisui, seeing Jiraiya for the first time, seemed taken aback by the Sannin's eccentricity. Kakashi simply watched, unbothered. This was hardly the first time Jiraiya had been unreasonable. Minato, standing nearby, intervened. "Jiraiya-sensei, let's first go over the battlefield situation with Mu Yue." Jiraiya grinned. "Just trying to liven things up," he said as he led Mu Yue's squad into the meeting tent. He had no intention of making Obito do actual chores, he just enjoyed provoking him. Inside, the mood turned serious. "I won't have to explain the two most troublesome elements of the Iwa force," Jiraiya said. "Mu Yue, you've fought those two Jinchuriki and know their strength." Mu Yue nodded. The Four Tails Jinchuriki and Iwa's other Jinchuriki were far different from the Three Tails he had faced on the East Bank. The Hidden Mist's Three Tails Jinchuriki had been dangerous only because a secret technique forced the Three Tails into a berserk transformation. He was the weakest sort of Jinchuriki. Jinchuriki, who could autonomously enter full-tailed beast transformation, were far more fearsome. For them, a tailed beast ball was still just a powerful ninjutsu. Their power in that state made it deadly. Mu Yue could dodge such attacks with Flying Thunder God, but confronting them directly demanded enormous cost. He would have to spend nearly all his chakra reserves to withstand even one tailed beast ball. Besides the Jinchuriki, the strongest in the Iwa force is Reshi, Minato said, handing Mu Yue some documents. He's captain of the Rock Ninja Blast Squad and has pushed the explosion release bloodline to an incredible level. His ninjutsu and taijutsu both cause explosions. The squad's vice captain, Iwakura, has also been active lately. His explosion release is more suited to long-range bombardment. Mu Yue listened. A single bloodline limit could manifest very differently in different hands. He recalled a Kumagakure shinobi named Troy, whose magnet release had been all about magnetic control, unlike Rasa's gold dust style. Minato continued, Reshi and Iwakura never act alone. They bring at least 3 squad members with them. Mu Yue guessed that Onoki had sent most of the blast squad to the grass country front. No wonder Hiruzen had urgently dispatched Minato. The combined bombardment of multiple explosion release users would create massive suppressive fire. Coupled with a Jinchuriki's tailed beast ball, it would be carpet bombing. After reading the intelligence, Mu Yue distributed copies to his teammates. On the entire battlefield, only 4 individuals truly qualified as their opponents. The 2 Jinchuriki and the 2 captains of the Rock Ninja Blast Squad. The remaining notable Jonin would likely be matched against Kakashi, Obito, and their peers. While the others scanned the reports, Mu Yue updated them on Grass Ninja Village. Yokogawa Tsutomu had raised a Grass Ninja force to assist Iwagakure, but with Long Fei now leading the village, those former allies would switch sides to Konoha. The first stab in Iwagakure's back would be Grass Ninja's pledge to Konoha. Minato frowned, then suggested a plan. Since Grass Ninja are our allies now, we can discreetly feed Iwagakure false information about some of our strongholds and have Grass Ninja pass it along. If they take the bait, we can lure a large force where we want them. It was aggressive, but the logic was sound. Grass Ninja had been working with Iwagakure and therefore had plausible access. A well-placed falsehood could move Iwa's troops. Use a few important strongholds as bait, Minato continued. If Iwagakure commits a large force to attack them, we can make the most of the opportunity. Jiraiya rubbed his chin. If we hold those 2 Blast Squad captains, Iwa might even come to the negotiating table with Konoha. He didn't think Minato's plan too extreme. After all, Jiraiya had worked with Orochimaru before, and Orochimaru had been far bolder. Mu Yue agreed. Given Iwagakure's current posture, they would seize any chance to inflict losses on Konoha. If Grass Ninja could be used to manipulate Iwagakure's deployments, the plan had a high chance of success. After hashing out details, Mu Yue contacted Grass Ninja Village to make the necessary arrangements. When the meeting wound down, Jiraiya relaxed and teased Mu Yue. You know, Minato said this morning he missed your cooking, and then you showed up. Minato looked puzzled. He hadn't said such a thing out loud. Obito, unexpectedly understanding the hint, smiled. I've been eating Mu Yue-sensei's cooking every day lately. I never get tired of it. Jiraiya's eyes flashed comically dark. He'd only eaten Mu Yue's food a few times a year. Was Obito trying to steal those rare meals? Obito, trying to be obliging, volunteered. I'll cook for you tonight, Mu Yue-sensei. Jiraiya's face fell at the idea of losing his few chances to eat Mu Yue's dishes. He quickly changed tack. You're a jonin now, right? Let me, your grandmaster, check your training with Minato. And perform well, Jiraiya added with a sly smile, and I'll let you sign a contract with Mount Myoboku. The mention of Mount Myoboku, a holy place with powerful toad contracts and sage training, made Jiraiya's expression momentarily serious. It had been a turning point in his own life. Obito looked interested. Anything with sage attached sounded powerful, but he still refused Jiraiya's teasing offer to be singled out. If you're going to test the whole squad, fine, but I'm not taking a beating alone. Kakashi comes with me. Kakashi only hummed and kept his expression unreadable. The banter ended there as the planning resumed, and the Konoha squad prepared to move out, poised to use Grass Ninja support and cunning deception to try to turn the battlefield in their favor. 5 or 6, fighting the 3 ninjas. Then your entire Minato squad will take the assessment together, Jiraiya said after a moment's thought. The phrase entire squad was loaded, the implication being that this was an elite test with Mu Yue as captain, handling the Grass Ninja mission. The others were manageable, but Mu Yue was a wild card. There was no way Jiraiya would use Sage Mode to evaluate juniors, right? Still, thanks to Obito's scheming, Kakashi and Rin had gotten a rare chance to spar with one of the legendary Sannin. Maybe I should post this picture on Konoha's busiest shopping street. Jiraiya chuckled. Kakashi, dragged into the mess by Obito, couldn't help producing the photo. Obito had wanted a beating and wanted Kakashi to share it. Kakashi had finally had enough. Kakashi, you promised! Obito shouted, glaring at the familiar snapshot. I even bought you a meal. How can you break your word? He reached for the photo. How am I breaking my word? Didn't I give you a copy? Kakashi said with a flash of movement, voice flat. But isn't the photo still in your hand? Obito protested. I didn't just have one copy. I gave you one. I kept some for myself, Kakashi replied, words that drove Obito into despair. The thought that Kakashi still possessed more incriminating photos made Obito's face go pale. Of course, Harake's always this evil, he mentally spat, regretting not taking Ryolu instead. Let me see it. Jiraiya leaned over and laughed loudly at Obito's expression. Ha ha, goggles brat, what a loser. Warning. Obito felt his blood heat and almost lost control. He itched to launch into flame-breathing chakra mode and rough up both Jiraiya and Kakashi. His remaining sanity reminded him that would only earn a worse beating. Proper revenge would be to sneak an attack while Jiraiya was evaluating them, take a bit of satisfaction, then train harder and beat Kakashi later in private. Be grateful. Few people get instruction from one of the legendary Sannin, the Toad Sage of Mount Myoboku, Jiraiya said, getting back to business. Obito's mischief had started all this, but Minato's students were his charge. Jiraiya didn't mind helping them train. Kakashi slipped the photo away and grew serious. Aside from Mu Yue, whose limits were unknown, Jiraiya was unquestionably the strongest ninja they had encountered. Even the Raikage candidate, who had once terrified them, was a novice compared to this man, a hero from the Second Shinobi World War. The 3 formed up, Obito and Kakashi in front, Rin slightly behind. You're a promising bunch. Don't disappoint me, Jiraiya said with a smile, arms crossed. These 3 were no longer nobodies. Their styles were distinct. Some in the village had already noticed. Then the fight began. Fire release, great fireball technique. Obito inhaled and exhaled chakra in a practiced rhythm, gathering flame into a sphere 5 times his size and hurling it at Jiraiya. You still play with fire release in front of me, and you're green. Jiraiya said, forming seals and responding with his own fire release. Fire release, flame bullet. Jiraiya kneaded chakra into oil in his mouth, spat it out, and performed fire release nature transformation. The oil ignited into a searing jet of flame. The two fire techniques collided in a thunderous detonation. Flames leapt skyward. Obito's fireball billowed like a burning lotus, less its composure. The temperature spiked. Even the air seemed to scorch. Obito's great fireball, for once, was outmatched. Jiraiya's flame bullet swallowed it and surged toward Obito. Rin and Kakashi moved in. Water release, great waterfall technique. Rin formed seals and spat forth a giant water sphere, snuffing the advancing flames. Kakashi pushed his lightning breathing to the edge and hurled two lightning-quick kunai at Jiraiya. But Jiraiya only smiled and sidestepped as if taking a leisurely stroll. Realizing the gap between him and a veteran like Jiraiya, Obito no longer held back. He entered flame-breathing chakra mode and activated his Sharingan. Flame-breathing was chakra, hungry. Combined with the Sharingan, even with Obito's above-average reserves, he could only maintain it for a few minutes. But the cost brought a massive surge in power, sharper perception, greater physical strength, and greatly amplified fire release. Summoning technique, Rin shouted and called Katsuyu. The giant slug was more known for medical ninjutsu than combat, but she could fight when needed. So you made a contract with Shikatsu Forest, Jiraiya said with a flicker of surprise. He hadn't expected Rin to have a connection with Tsunade. If Obito signed with Mount Myoboku and Kakashi trained at Ryuchido Cave, they might wind up forming the next generation of Sannin. Exploding fist! Rin used herself as bait, condensing chakra into her fist and surging forward. A massive explosion shattered the ground where Jiraiya had stood seconds before. The raw power unnerved Jiraiya. It dredged up unpleasant memories, times he'd been nearly beaten. Opportunity! Obito seized the distraction and surged forward, chakra flaring. Fire release leaf whirlwind. His flame-clad right foot drove toward Jiraiya's head. Wild Lion's main technique. Jiraiya formed seals calmly and saturated his long white hair with chakra. The hair stiffened and coiled to grab Obito's body. He began to throw Obito to the earth when Kakashi struck. Kakashi activated Transparent World and lightning-breathing chakra mode at once, pushing himself to a peak and slashing with lightning speed. He didn't connect with Jiraiya, but he cut off a portion of the white hair, freeing Obito. The freed Obito spat fire at the close-range Jiraiya. In flame-breathing mode, he needed no hand seals. Fire release, great fireball technique, he bellowed and unleashed another great sphere. Ninja art, needle jizo. Jiraiya reinforced his hair further, switching to defense. The hair hardened and wrapped around him like armor. Explosion and smoke filled the air, hiding the scene within. Nothing fatal, right? Obito muttered to himself. Jiraiya was irritating, but he'd been Minato's teacher. No need to try to seriously injure him. Kakashi gathered chakra, waiting for the next opening. This was Jiraiya, one of the legendary Sannin. Kakashi wasn't arrogant enough to think small tricks would topple him. You gave me a nice surprise, Jiraiya laughed as the smoke thinned. Obito stared. Jiraiya emerged mostly unharmed, only dusted with black ash. Kakashi and his teammates' strength had exceeded his expectations. He decided to take the match more seriously. Shadow clone technique. Jiraiya formed seals and made two shadow clones. One charged Obito, the other attacked Rin. Fire release, blazing impact. Obito ignited his whole body and collided with the Jiraiya clone. Though solid, shadow clones were vulnerable. A full-body flame strike should destroy one. Water surge hand. The shadow clone shot a torrent of water and extinguished Obito's flames, leaving him soaked. Katsuyu condensed corrosive acid and spat it at the clone, attacking Rin. Jiraiya, well acquainted with Katsuyu, had expected that. He sidestepped and sent a wind blade at Rin. She raised a water formation wall, but the blade sliced through and nearly injured her. Kakashi, circling Jiraiya's main body, narrowed his eyes. Transparent World let him watch Obito and Rin while evading Jiraiya. He realized Jiraiya was an all-rounder, much like Mu Yue, masterful across many types of ninjutsu with no obvious gap. This is wasting time. I need coordinated action, Kakashi decided. They couldn't beat Jiraiya head-on yet, but a single opening might be enough. As the strongest of Minato's team, Kakashi's techniques were the fastest and most powerful. He had to create the chance. Lightning release, false darkness. Kakashi expelled a powerful lightning spear that forced Jiraiya back and shot a meaningful glance to Obito and Rin. Years together had taught them to communicate with looks when a strategy didn't need words. Obito was grudging. He dragged Kakashi into this so Kakashi would take a beating, and now he was being asked to cooperate. Still, he complied. He closed his Sharingan and poured everything into flame-breathing mode. His attacks went all out. Fire release after fire release, an unrelenting torrent of flame, pinning Jiraiya's shadow clone with overwhelming firepower. Rin did her part, entangling the other clone as best a medical ninja could. She couldn't realistically handle more. Kakashi energized his body with lightning release and slashed toward the clone on Obito's side, preparing to combine with Obito's assault to eliminate a clone first. Jiraiya's main body watched, unhurried. He'd already figured some of this out, but since it was a guidance session, he would cooperate, minding his strength a bit. In a real fight, he'd just summon Gamabunta. That would settle matters. Fire release, Flame Emperor. Suddenly, Obito exploded, pouring all his chakra into a single fire release. A colossal fireball, over 10 meters across, condensed in his palm. Kakashi's plan was simple. Make it look like they'd destroyed a clone, then use Obito's flame breathing to unleash a massive fire release and force an opening. Against the Flame Emperor's scale, Obito seemed tiny, but the attack's range was enormous. The moment Obito threw it, Jiraiya felt his skin prickle. Earth release, Earth flow wall. One shadow clone roared, forming a towering earthen barrier. Water release, water prison technique, the main body added, a second water barrier rising to keep ash and heat at bay. Boom! The Flame Emperor slammed into the defenses. The earth wall took heavy damage but held. The water barrier helped keep Jiraiya from being buried in ash. Flash! Godspeed! With Transparent World still active, Kakashi watched the worst of the blast pass and poured himself into motion, becoming a streak of lightning. He didn't have the chakra left for Thoughtless Blade, only full strength allowed that, but he moved with all he had and charged. Jiraiya's experience told him what was coming. He reacted in time. Summoning technique. A red, fleshy wall erupted from nowhere and engulfed Jiraiya before Kakashi's lightning flash could reach him. No text for this chapter. Let's proceed to the next chapter. Chapter 507. Fugaku running for 4th Hokage? Meeting Kushina hadn't been easy before. Mu Yue usually had an Anbu deliver a message during mealtimes to arrange a meeting. Now, because of his special status within the Anbu, the process was simpler, no longer requiring a fixed appointment. Near the agreed spot, Mu Yue saw Kushina waiting beneath a broad tree. Except for their first meeting, when Mu Yue had arrived early, Kushina always seemed to get there ahead of him after that. Though Xuan Wohualing had never met Kushina, the bright red caught her eye immediately. She had the feeling this must be the Uzumaki Kushina Mu Yue had mentioned. Kushina, good afternoon, Mu Yue greeted, smiling as he stepped forward. Kushina opened her mouth to reply, but her attention drifted to the red-haired girl beside Mu Yue. She stroked her chin and studied Xuan Wohualing, forming a few quick guesses. If Mu Yue had brought someone to see her, there were only two possibilities. The person was very close to him, or the person was an Uzumaki. Xuan Wohualing watched Kushina silently. Even before they began speaking, she could sense how different their personalities were. After looking Xuan Wohualing over, Kushina turned back to Mu Yue. Xuan Wohualing, an Uzumaki survivor, she said. Mu Yue, so you really like red hair, I thought. Xuan Wohualing and Kushina spoke at the same time. Mu Yue had introduced Hualing, while Kushina blurted out her private speculation. Thought what? Mu Yue asked, puzzled. When he'd first met Minato and Kushina, he'd complimented Kushina's hair to win her favor. Now Kushina had jumped to a different conclusion entirely. Ah, haha, never mind. Kushina laughed awkwardly and tried to recover. Then she introduced herself properly. Hello, I am Uzumaki Kushina, she said, turning her attention to Hualing. Since the Vortex clan's destruction, Kushina had met only one other Uzumaki besides Mito, so seeing another clan member, another peer, made her genuinely happy. Hello, Kushina. I am Xuan Wohualing, Hualing replied politely. Despite Mu Yue's brief introduction, she wanted to introduce herself formally. Meeting a fellow clansman after so long made her a little excited. They quickly fell into conversation about childhood memories in the land of whirlpools. As they talked, they discovered their homes had been only a few streets apart. If Kushina hadn't been sent to Konoha and the Land of Whirlpools hadn't been destroyed, they might have been classmates, walking to school together. The thought silenced them both. Even the usually buoyant Kushina grew somber when she recalled the annihilation of her clan and country. Her parents, relatives, and childhood friends, all gone in that war. How could she be cheerful? While I can understand your excitement at meeting a clansperson, don't forget about me, Mu Yue teased, nudging the conversation back to himself. Hey, sorry, I got carried away, Kushina admitted, scratching her head. Then, curiosity struck. By the way, how did you two meet? Weren't you on a mission, Mu Yue? Kushina could tell whether Mu Yue was in Konoha just by watching her meals. He usually prepared one for her when he was in the village. I was on a mission in the grass country and ran into her, Mu Yue answered tersely. That's all? Kushina's eyes widened. It sounded too simple. Actually, I was in danger in the grass ninja village and Lord Mu Yue rescued me. He saw I was struggling and brought me back to Konoha, Xuan Hualing added. She was grateful. Mu Yue had helped her a great deal in both the grass village and in Konoha. In her eyes, Mu Yue was unquestionably a good person. That makes more sense, Kushina nodded. It was the classic hero rescues damsel scene, kidnapped Uzumaki swooping in rescue her. The more Kushina thought about it, the stronger a sense of déjà vu she felt. This was exactly how things had begun with her and Minato Namikaze. Back then, she'd found Minato dull and odd. They'd even been rivals for the Hokage position. Only after Minato rescued her from a kidnapping did she begin to understand him, and everything changed. Is the world full of Minatos and me? She wondered, flitting between amusement and introspection. She studied the two of them again and realized Mu Yue and Xuan Hualing weren't close like she and Minato had been. Let's chat more and see what Hualing's personality is like, Kushina decided. Mu Yue had never had a girlfriend. If there'd only been suitable friends, Kushina would have tried to set him up long ago. If Hualing had a pleasant personality, she might try to nudge a connection. By the time Obito finished training with Shisui at the South Border Forest, it was nearly dinner. I'm home, he called before he even reached the door. Oh, it's Obito. His grandmother smiled and slowly made her way to the door. Grandma, how have you been? Obito asked as he helped her into the living room. I'm not senile yet. You were only gone a short while on that mission. What could have changed? She teased, meaning to reassure him. Obito had been away a long time on the East Coast battlefield, mostly gone for over half a year. He scratched his head and laughed. As long as Grandma was healthy, he didn't mind the nagging. Where's Fire Dragon? Out playing? Obito asked, thinking of the nin beast he kept at home. He had big hopes for Fire Dragon. Hopefully, it would eventually be stronger than Jiraiya's toad. Isn't Fire Dragon right there? Grandma pointed to the sofa. Obito followed her finger and spotted a burning tail curled behind the cushions. Fire Dragon, why are you sleeping at this hour? Wake up, Obito called. An afternoon nap would be understandable. Dinner time was pushing it. He suspected the dragon had been lazy in his absence. Fire Dragon stirred, swayed, and crawled toward Obito. It had recently eaten too much and felt sleepy. Is this Fire Dragon? Obito stared at the dragon's bloated belly. When he left it had been leaner. How had it gotten so round on one mission? Roar! Fire Dragon protested indignantly. How dare Obito insult a dragon? Obito couldn't help but grin as he lifted it by the scruff and met its eyes. Did you not train at all while I was gone? How did you get so fat? Fire Dragon shook its head. It hadn't been completely idle. Sometimes it slacked when it rained, but the real reason was Grandma's excellent cooking. Obito wasn't entirely convinced, but he decided to be firm. It doesn't matter what happened. Starting now, you're going to train harder and lose that weight. If anything, a chubby dragon was less intimidating. Fire Dragon sulked, but it couldn't argue in human speech. If it could, it might have breathed fire at him. Obito sketched a training plan for Fire Dragon based on Mu Yue's past methods. Fire Dragon turned its head away, refusing to give Obito another chance to underestimate or embarrass it without a translator. Meanwhile, Zorua, the cleverest of the new nin beasts with uniquely powerful genjutsu, was happily eating the dinner Shisui had prepared. Because of its intelligence, Shisui didn't leave Zorua with anyone else to raise. The fox managed itself with money and food Shisui gave it. When bored at home, it could eat the Inuzuka clan's secret dog food. When it wanted something hot, it would genjutsu itself into human form and buy it. "How's living alone?" Shisui asked, taking off his apron. "At first it was new, but I started to miss you," Zorua said after a beat. It preferred the bustle of the south border forest. Training was tough, but the breaks were fun. Without the entertainment of tormenting Obito, life felt duller. "When you're stronger, I'll take you on missions," Shisui promised, stroking Zorua's fiery red fur to comfort it. The newborn nin beasts were still weak. None of the disciples had brought theirs on top-level missions yet. After dinner, Shisui walked Zorua through the Uchiha district for half an hour, then left it at home and headed to the Uchiha clan meeting at Nanga Shrine. Obito, who disliked clan meetings, had not been invited. Shisui's recent exploits had given him a certain standing in the clan, and he didn't think Obito would enjoy it. "Shisui, long time. Were you on a mission?" Uchiha Inaho greeted him near the shrine. Shisui nodded. "I've been thinking about fire release lately. Are you free to talk after the meeting?" Although younger, Shisui had considerable respect in the clan. Inaho was one of the more promising young Uchiha, respected by his peers, ideal for Shisui to cultivate as an ally. They entered Nanga Shrine together. As Shisui walked in, many Uchiha greeted him. Defeating a clan elder in competition had boosted his reputation tremendously. He made a point, as Mu Yue had taught him, of answering everyone and putting people at ease. Shisui had even asked Fugaku for a list of all Uchiha ninja, memorizing names and faces to ensure no one was overlooked. Uchiha Shengqing noticed and was impressed. A genius who knew how to win people over was truly formidable. When the meeting began, Shengqing spoke passionately. "To restore Uchiha glory, we must gain influence in Konoha. The most important thing is to have an Uchiha Hokage." The Uchiha were on par with the Senju in the Warring States period. "The Senju have already given us 2 Hokage, yet we haven't had a single one. That's unacceptable. No matter how difficult, we must strive for the Hokage position." Shengqing's words ignited the room. He was a master at stirring emotions. Before long, even Inaho was fired up. Shisui did not object. He secretly believed the Uchiha having a Hokage would ease many problems. But becoming Hokage required enormous contributions to Konoha and immense strength. Shengqing unexpectedly suggested a candidate. "I believe General Fugaku could compete for Hokage," he said, throwing Fugaku into the spotlight. Shengqing's motive was political theater. If Fugaku failed, Shengqing could blame bias from Konoha's elders and use the fallout to push his hawkish agenda. Fugaku, taken aback by the sudden nomination, looked at the expectant faces of his clansmen and hesitated. He knew his limits. Without the Mangekyou, he wasn't sure he could rival the Sannin or even contend with future prodigies. Yet to openly say he was unfit would dampen clan morale. "Third Hokage is healthy and the next election is still distant," Shisui interjected, offering a way forward. "Why not first discuss how we Uchiha can support General Fugaku? Prepare in advance." Shisui had fought Fugaku before. He respected Fugaku's strength but didn't think he reached Sannin levels. Shisui wanted the clan to plan realistically. Shengqing had been making broad statements. Shisui pointed out practical steps based on Uchiha Kagami's precedent. After the meeting, Shisui kept his word and guided Inaho, then went to Mu Yue's home to report what had happened. "If the Uchiha could become Hokage or hold high office, it would help your plan," Mu Yue said, shaking his head thoughtfully. "But it's not realistic in the short term. Unless it's during a 4th Hokage like Minato, the Uchiha would face massive resistance. However, this is an opportunity," Mu Yue continued. "Use the argument that the Uchiha monopolizing power could alarm other clans and affect Hokage elections to persuade the Uchiha elders to reform the police force." Mu Yue envisioned that resolving the police force problem would advance Shisui's mission significantly. Tobirama had understood the Uchiha well. What looked like a generous arrangement could be poisonous. Shisui thought Mu Yue's proposal out and realized it was better than his original plan. Framing reform as a necessary sacrifice for greater influence, and possibly the Hokage, would be far more persuasive than arguing against the police force's very existence. "You're amazing, teacher," Shisui said sincerely. Each lesson from Mu Yue opened new horizons for him. In the Land of Rain, at the Ninzong base, intensive preparation for Mu Yue's transfer lecture to the Eastern Land of Rain was in its final phase. Mu Yue's shadow clone had been working hard to promote the grand, unrestricted lecture. Rain's whole ninja community, down to the genin and even rogue ninja, knew about the week-long public lecture. No prerequisites, anyone could attend. That ninja master's lecture, I want to go, one Rain Shinobi murmured. I heard he's an amazing teacher. Others debated whether attending might anger Hanzo. If you're worried, just disguise yourself with a transformation technique, someone suggested. Hanzo, patrolling the village, overheard the chatter and sighed. Seeing his people so interested in Mu Yue, or rather Sosuke's teaching, made him uneasy. Was he really that threatened by Sosuke's reputation? Hanzo decided he would attend the first day in disguise, as a rogue ninja, to see what Sosuke actually offered. Mu Yue's promotional work reached far beyond the Rain. In Iwagakure, Kitsuchi was intrigued and asked Onoki for permission to go. Onoki balked at Kitsuchi going off during wartime just to attend a lecture, but relented on the condition that Kitsuchi take a mission en route. Kitsuchi agreed and took several jonin and chuunin with him. In Sunagakure, Yekura, an expert in scorch and fire release, was curious about the rumor that this ninja master's fire release could counter Hanzo's water release, even in the rain. She checked her schedule and decided to attend on the first day. If the lecture didn't impress her, she'd leave. Word even reached Konoha, where Obito scoffed. Ninja master? Lord Mu Yue could lay claim to the title if he wanted. Kakashi warned not to underestimate Sosuke. In Kakashi's view, Sosuke was dangerous, someone to avoid provoking. Yamato shrugged. His life experience left him clueless about the politics. Shisui, meanwhile, kept thinking of the Uchiha. Danzo Shimura, reading route intelligence reports, was alarmed. Sosuke's lecture drive explained how the Shinobi sect had grown. Now he was organizing a huge public lecture in the Land of Rain. Danzo mobilized route squads into the Rain border. He wouldn't allow a small nation next to the Land of Fire to strengthen too rapidly. This could threaten Konoha's interests and possibly present an opportunity for Danzo himself. The lecture's opening would reveal much about Sosuke's true intentions, and whether the Shinobi sect aimed to become more than a teaching movement. 509. Advanced Class Rewards Land of Rain. Word of the open lectures had spread, and the area around the Ninzong base buzzed with activity. Ninja had come from nearby villages and farther afield, many arriving the night before, so they could be ready for Sosuke's 9 o'clock start. The innkeepers and vendors around the base were quietly grateful. A steady flow of visitors was exactly the sort of business they liked to see. Even Hanzo couldn't simply march up at dawn as the leader of his people. He, too, had come early, disguised as a wandering shinobi to watch the crowd. It looks like Iwagakure and Sunagakure. Even Konoha sent people, Hanzo muttered, scanning the gathered faces. With so many villages represented, he expected friction. Old enemies meeting in close quarters usually meant trouble. A patrolling guard from the ninja sect strode through the crowd, loud enough for all to hear. Those who intend to fight, leave the town. Fighting within the town will be considered troublemaking. Any damage will be compensated for. Sosuke had thought of this himself. He didn't forbid fighting outright. He only insisted it not disturb the civilians or his lecture. The crowd murmured approval. Hanzo had almost made it back to his inn when a call drew his attention. That's Yekura, the Sunagakure hero. He made a quick, discreet search and found Yekura standing openly at a street corner, her trademark scorch release unmistakable to anyone who knew her. Around her, whispers swelled. A ninja of her caliber actually came to hear Sosuke? Nearby, Kitsuchi, the rock fist and son of the Tsuchikage, stood without disguise. His presence provoked another round of astonished murmurs. Hanzo watched them both, not impressed. If anything, he was irritated by the attention Sosuke had drawn. On a high vantage point, Yahiko grinned as he surveyed the crowd. It's lively, just like Teacher Sosuke said. If all these people joined the Shinobi sect, our strength would multiply. Nagato, quieter, wasn't convinced. That's unlikely. Even wandering ninja don't join an organization so readily. Many of these people belong to villages. Personal interests matter. Yahiko laughed and clapped Nagato on the shoulder. I'm just joking. But Nagato, you've changed. You sound confident now. Nagato looked toward the base. We all have, under Teacher Sosuke's guidance. They'd seen it happen. The presence of Sosuke and the Shinobi sect had reshaped things in the Land of Rain, even if the change was still taking root. The next morning, the open field at Ninzong Base had no grand stage, no chairs, only a slightly raised platform so the speaker could be seen. For most present, that was fine. They'd come to hear Sosuke, not to be pampered. Is that Sosuke? He looks so young, maybe 30 at most, someone nearby whispered. He defeated Hanzo the demigod and only now shows himself. He must have been hiding his strength. Sosuke climbed the platform, used his Byakugan to sweep the crowd, and saw roughly 1,000 faces, mostly ninja from smaller nearby villages and wandering shinobi, with only a smattering from the great nations. It was within expectations, war-limited travel after all. He didn't appraise everyone individually, only the chakra signatures that stood out. Name, Kits Chi Yaozen. Skills, Earth Release Chakra Nature Transformation, Proficient 4,000 15,000, Earth Release Fist Rock Proficient, Earth Release Mountain Earth Technique Proficient. He nodded to himself and began. Hello, I'm Sosuke. I will be teaching for the next 7 days. Please keep quiet. He let a measured portion of his presence wash across the field. The stronger aura made some of the closer chuunin pale. Even Yakura felt a slight jolt of surprise. The crowd fell silent. Respect for strength mattered in this world. He wanted there to be no needless disruptions. The course covers chakra nature transformation, form transformation, ninjutsu, taijutsu, and more, Sosuke explained. He designed the curriculum so it would be useful to a wide range of attendees. It mattered for the course's evaluation. Kitsuchi raised an eyebrow. He'd expected Sosuke to teach his specialty, perhaps fire release, but this broad approach was intriguing. Sosuke opened with the basics of the 5 primary chakra natures. He demonstrated each in turn: earth release by forming a pillar, wind release by turning chakra into sharp blades which cleaved the pillar into blocks, lightning release by shattering those blocks into a spray of shards, fire release by producing blisteringly hot flames, water release by shaping a stream into a whip and then a sword. How concise, and each point made matters, a ninja thought. The wind release practitioner in the crowd realized the essence of his nature was a thinning, sharpening of chakra, something his previous masters had missed. Some snooned, Yakura among them, felt the lecture was too basic for her rank. But Sosuke's point was deeper than a simple rundown. He emphasized how nature affinities restrained one another, yet mastery could bend those rules. Fire could overcome water if the wielder's mastery was deep enough, a point Hanzo listened to with a tightening expression. He wanted to know exactly how he had lost to Sosuke under rainy conditions favorable to water release. Realizing some principles were better shown than told, Sosuke had the crowd back away, entered flame-breathing chakra mode, compressed his chakra, and sparked a high-temperature flame on the ground. I'll choose someone to try and put this out with water release. Hanzo lowered his head and tried to fade into the crowd, but when Sosuke pointed and said, "The friend wearing a mask, come up," Hanzo knew he'd been chosen. He'd thought his disguise was strong. If he refused, it would look suspicious. He walked up with a blank face. "What is your name?" Sosuke asked. "Hattori," Hanzo replied casually. "If you have water release, try to extinguish it. If not, we have a hose," Sosuke added. Hanzo formed a hand seal and spat out a basic water release. The stream hissed and vaporized in the intense heat. Sosuke's flame remained unscathed. "Use stronger water," Sosuke suggested. Hanzo increased the flow, feigned strain, but the result didn't change. Sosuke released a few others with solid water release competency to try. One by one, their attacks evaporated. The flame continued to burn. The crowd watched in stunned silence. Sosuke's compressed fire was extraordinary. Not a Matarasu level, but far beyond ordinary fire release. Yakura found the pure fire release itself almost more potent than her scorch release. Sosuke canceled the jutsu and returned to theory, clarifying the finer points of fire and water chakra nature manipulation. Hanzo listened harder than anyone, feeling as if there were layers of foundation and theoretical knowledge he'd overlooked in his own training. Time slid by unnoticed. 4 hours had passed when Sosuke finally announced a break. Many attendees realized in surprise they'd been captivated the whole time. Even those who didn't specialize in elemental techniques felt they'd gained a clearer direction. Who knew Sosuke would be this insightful? A rain ninja murmured. Another nearby warned him to keep such thoughts low. Rain Village ears were everywhere, but privately he agreed. Sosuke was approachable and genuinely skilled, not the slander Hanzo had spread. After the break, the afternoon covered lightning and earth release. Wind and yin-yang would be saved for the next morning. The class ended, and Sosuke's panel updated with the course completion. Completed a high-level lecture, starting settlement, evaluation S, rewards, chakra nature transformation insight, fire release chakra nature transformation plus 10, water release chakra nature transformation plus 122, earth release chakra nature transformation 96, lightning release. First completion of a high-level lecture, gained skill, enlightenment. Sosuke felt the difference immediately. The S-rank rewards weren't just larger numbers. The insight felt qualitatively different from the usual understanding, and he'd gained a new skill, enlightenment, marking the lecture as a real success. He let himself feel satisfied for a moment, then looked toward the crowd preparing for the next day, already planning how best to bring wind and yin-yang chakra transformation to them. 510. The Might of the Fire Dragon Dance. Enlightenment, you are good at resolving students' doubts, and your thinking becomes more agile when contemplating their questions. Mu Yue wore a thoughtful expression. The system's explanation was too terse. Who exactly counts as a student for enlightenment? Someone who sat through his lectures? Someone who genuinely acknowledged him as their teacher? Or someone Mu Yue personally considered a disciple? And what did good at resolving students' doubts mean? Was enlightenment an effect like professor that only activated when a student had a question? The latter half was easy. It clearly accelerated problem-solving, but limited to students' doubts. Mu Yue felt enlightenment was like professor and insight stitched together. The first half a restricted professor, the second half a restricted insight. Each of the three skills had its strengths and were hard to compare. Tomorrow morning's class will still be on chakra nature transformation, covering wind release, yang release, and yin release. Mu Yue pushed his reflections aside and announced the next day's syllabus. The achievement reward had been paid out, and the S-rank settlement reward for the advanced class was excellent, so he intended to make the next 7 days count. He even masters yin and yang release? How did he have time to cultivate all that? Hanzo looked bewildered. If Mu Yue were his age, it might be believable, but he didn't look old. Where had he squeezed in so much training? Hanzo had meant to leave. His identity would be awkward if exposed, but Mu Yue was going to explain yin and yang nature transformations, and Hanzo really wanted to hear that. He stayed. If Sosuke were an Iwagakure shinobi, that would be perfect. Kitsuchi sighed. After Mu Yue's lecture, he was convinced Mu Yue alone could replace a force of 1,500 shinobi, 500 in raw combat, 1,000 in teaching and influence. Of course, that was wishful thinking. Mu Yue wasn't joining Iwagakure, and Hanzo would never accept such an offer. We could commission Sosuke to assist with training, Kitsuchi thought. Iwagakure could hire Mu Yue for a mission, use a commissioned contract to get his help without changing his allegiance. He made a mental note to propose it to Onoki when filing his mission report. Iwagakure planned to use the shinobi sect to wear down Konoha's strength as part of a larger strategy, so Kitsuchi couldn't decide alone. Ninja Master Sosuke, will you spar with me using fire release? Yakura stepped forward. She'd only studied 1 day, and being a renowned figure in the shinobi world, she addressed Mu Yue as Ninja Master rather than teacher. I have a bloodline limit called Scorch Release, very high-temperature flames. I want to see the fire release that defeated the demigod. Since she was already here, she wanted to test Mu Yue's fire release in combat. Her challenge made the crowd stop and focus on Mu Yue. Hanzo's expression darkened. Did she really have to mention him? Was Sosuke's fire release only used against him? Mu Yue simply nodded after a moment's thought. For the shinobi sect, which was about to make a name for itself in the Land of Rain, the more combat feats and fame their leader accumulated, the better. Besides, at his current strength, fighting Yakura would be easy. The ninjas drew back to give them room and watched from a distance, murmuring among themselves. How long will this hidden sand powerhouse last? It shouldn't be less than 3 minutes. She's a famous Suna fighter. No one believed Yakura would win. Even the Sunagakure shinobi weren't confident. Ninja Master Sosuke's reputation had preceded him. If he had really defeated Hanzo, who was famously skilled in water release, there had to be something extraordinary about his fire release. "Make your move," Mu Yue said. Yakura didn't hesitate. She concentrated all her chakra and unleashed her bloodline limit. Scorch release, incinerating steam murder. 7 dark, head-sized fireballs formed and orbited Yakura before she led them toward Mu Yue. He focused his breathing technique and instantly entered flame-breathing chakra mode to amplify his fire release. Fire release, fire dragon dance. A tremendous amount of chakra gathered in Mu Yue's throat, amplified by flame-breathing chakra mode and converted into searing fire. He formed a tiger seal out of habit and exhaled a vast, blinding wall of intensely hot flame. Normally in flame-breathing chakra mode, he didn't need hand seals, but he was used to the motion when assuming his alias. The heat rose instantly. The onlookers were drenched in sweat. Hanzo froze. This was the jutsu that had defeated him before. He still remembered the rainy day. The sky had been gray, and Mu Yue's fire release had poured out blinding light and heat. Hanzo, confident in his elemental and weather advantage as the strongest water release user, had been swallowed by Mu Yue's fire dragon dance. Overestimating herself. She actually wants to challenge fire dragon dance? Kakuzu sneered. He remembered the time Mu Yue had once killed 4 of his lives in a single fire dragon dance. Later, after understanding Mu Yue better, Kakuzu realized Mu Yue had held back even then. Had he been fully intent on killing, all 5 of Kakuzu's lives would have been wiped out. The pressure on Yakura was immense. She countered with Scorch release, but the differences were too great. Her flames dissipated in Mu Yue's sea of fire. The inferno split into 6 massive fire dragons, sealing every path of escape. In that instant, Yakura probably saw herself turning to ash. Then, just as the dragons closed in, Mu Yue canceled the jutsu and the sky-filling flames vanished. It was a perfect, undeniable instant kill. Had he not canceled, it would have been fatal. Except for Hanzo, Kakuzu, and Kitsuchi, who had already experienced the fire dragon dance's might. The other shinobi were stunned. They knew Sosuke's fire release was powerful. Witnessing him use it to almost instantly dispatch a hidden sand hero was another reality entirely. If his fire release is like that, defeating Hanzo, who specializes in water release, suddenly makes sense, one ninja murmured. In sheer fire mastery, no one surpasses Lord Sosuke, others agreed. Something you heard about and something you saw live were 2 different things. This fire release wouldn't be so easily neutralized by water release. Yakura recovered and bowed her thanks. Ninja Master Sosuke, thank you for holding back. No need, Mu Yue said with a faint smile. Back at the shinobi sect base, Mu Yue began testing the new skill, enlightenment. His method was simple and a little playful. He wrote a set of large multiplication and division problems, gave them to Nagato, and had Nagato ask him if he didn't understand any. Mu Yue would solve and explain those problems, then work a separate set he hadn't shown Nagato and compare his own speed, seeing if enlightenment recognized Nagato as a student and accelerated his thinking on those problems. The test worked. Enlightenment triggered. He clearly felt faster solving the problems he had assigned to Nagato. Does this mean all of my disciples count as students for enlightenment? Mu Yue wondered. It seemed likely. The system favored disciples, and a teaching skill that couldn't help his students would be counterintuitive. He couldn't test Obito and the others since they were in Konoha, so he moved on to Konan and Yahiko. The skill triggered for them too. They were recognized as students. But when he tried with several newer shinobi sect members, enlightenment failed to activate. It seems you have to study with me for a period of time to be judged a student, Mu Yue concluded. Enlightenment's judgment was relatively lenient, and he already pictured ways to exploit it. If Tsunade, who was helping him with the Yang Seal, counted as a student, his development of the Yang Seal could accelerate. Assigning tasks to disciples during lectures could create doubts that sped his research on breathing techniques. As he tested more, he found a drawback. If a previous doubt went unresolved, the boost for subsequent doubts diminished. After about 5 unresolved doubts, the benefit was almost negligible. Fortunately, enlightenment had clear trigger conditions. The student must be communicating with Mu Yue. The student must genuinely have a doubt, and Mu Yue must intend to resolve it. It couldn't be gamed by a student blurting a sentence to force a trigger. There was also a practical standard for resolving a doubt. If a student asked how to become the strongest in the ninja world, Mu Yue didn't need to actually make them the strongest. Devising a concrete training plan counted as resolving the doubt. That kept the skill powerful without being unbalanced. 511, Pokemon Evolution Land of Rain, near the Ninzong base. It was the second day of the unlimited lecture. None of the ninjas who had attended the first day left. All of them stayed for day 2. From the lowest level rogue shinobi to famous powerhouses like Kitsuchi and Yekura, everyone made the same choice. The reason was simple. The second day's lessons were too tempting. Today's topics were yin release and yang release, chakra nature transformation. Yin and yang chakra transformations differed from the 5 elements. They were more special. Most secret ninjutsu in the shinobi world relied on yin or yang release, which alone proved their uniqueness. Mu Yue's proficiency in yin and yang wasn't as high as some of his other natures. His yang release sat a little over 4,000 at master level, and his yin was a bit lower, around 3,000, master level, but modest compared to his stronger attributes. Still, by the standards of the ninja world, Mu Yue's yin and yang mastery beat most shinobi. Even the Ino Shikacho clans, specialists in family secret techniques, didn't surpass him now. With Mu Yue teaching and boosting their understanding, and with no top-level yin or yang masters present, his course filled the hall. Yesterday we talked about making chakra as sharp as a blade with wind release, Mu Yue said before addressing the room. So improving wind release is simple in direction. Make your chakra thinner. A thinner blade concentrates force on a smaller point, thereby increasing cutting pressure. Although everyone had come especially for yin and yang, Mu Yue stuck to his plan and began with wind release. Wind release users were few but present, and Mu Yue demonstrated as he spoke. First, he shredded paper, then split wood, then sliced stone. Finally, he focused wind release chakra and cut clean through a solid iron block. Under Mu Yue's wind release, nothing seemed uncuttable. Compared to his yin and yang, Mu Yue's wind release proficiency was far higher, nearly 9,000 at master level. The wind users in the room listened intently. Powerful wind shinobi were rare. The chance to learn from Mu Yue was precious, even for hidden sand ninjas. A sand Jinin wanted to ask his Jonin teacher about Mu Yue's level, but seeing the Jonin taking notes, he stayed quiet and opened his own notebook. After an hour or so of wind instruction, Mu Yue moved into the promised yin and yang material. Creating form from nothing is yin. Bestowing life upon form is yang, he proclaimed, summarizing the essence. Most spirit-related secret ninjutsu are yin release. Secret ninjutsu related to the body are yang release. Those 2 lines made the concepts click for everyone. But Mu Yue didn't stop at definitions. He explained various yin secret techniques, controlling shadows, crafting illusions, connecting minds. The intermediate course's A-rank evaluation reward included secret ninjutsu, and Mu Yue had prepared some examples, demonstrating real understanding. Hanzo listened with mounting shock. He really masters 7 chakra attributes. Does he have jutsu to keep him looking young? Mu Yue's detailed explanations suggested true mastery of many yin and yang techniques, and Hanzo wondered whether Mu Yue's youthful appearance might be the result of a secret technique. Maybe he was older than he looked. Even the 3rd Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, famed as the professor of ninjutsu and a genius of the 5 elemental attributes, didn't seem as comprehensive as Mu Yue. Hiruzen had been rare in his day. Mu Yue's breadth felt almost excessive. During lunch, everyone who'd come wrote to friends urging them to join the lectures, warning that chances like this might never return. After the afternoon session, the system rewards were distributed. Completed a high-level lecture, evaluation, reward, chakra nature transformation insight, yin release chakra nature transformation plus 60, yang release chakra nature transformation 55, wind release. Insights into chakra nature transformation flooded Mu Yue's mind. Beyond single natures, he also grasped Fus, ion transformations like wood release and ice release. He glanced at his proficiency panel. Fire release chakra nature transformation, perfect level, 621, 8000. Water release chakra nature transformation, master level, 1600s, 15,000. Wind release chakra nature transformation, master level, 8960. Lightning release chakra nature transformation, master level, 7,000. Earth release chakra nature transformation, master level, 6400. Yang release. After reaching perfect level, progress slowed drastically. Fire release had been at perfect for a while now, but the proficiency number still lagged. Mu Yue suspected the six-path sage level might be a cap. Perfect might be the top, and exceeding it could be astronomically difficult. Even with the system's help, advancement was painfully slow. Still, perfect level fire release felt powerful. If his other natures reached perfect too, he might be able to create a truth-seeking ball by hand, a technique associated with the six paths. Mu Yue could barely imagine what above perfect would look like. Even in the god-level 4th Shinobi World War, truth-seeking balls were legendary. Tomorrow, I'll spend the whole day on ninjutsu itself, the essence of ninjutsu, not a specific attribute. I'll dissect what makes a jutsu, Mu Yue announced. Hanzo, about to return to the Rain Village, hesitated. That sounded as valuable as yin and yang instruction, and perhaps even better for increasing raw power. I'll stay one more day, he thought. I'll head back the day after. Nothing urgent. So the crowd stayed. Word of Mu Yue's lectures spread and more ninjas came to the Land of Rain, swelling the area around the Ninzong base. Sosuke, you're wasting a fortune. You should charge tuition, Kakuzu grumbled. Ninjas have money. 1,000 ryo a head a day. You could make 1,000,000 ryo easily. To a working shinobi, 1,000 ryo was negligible. Kakuzu imagined charging more. Provide food and lodging and jack up the price, he said. He pictured banknotes tumbling like a dream. Mu Yue only smiled faintly and said nothing. A price threshold would discourage some, and Mu Yue wanted attendance to hit the reward goal. A threshold was an obstacle. Leader Kakuzu, even if we didn't make money, Teacher Sosuke's lectures earned the shinobi sect a lot of prestige, Nagato said earnestly. Yakura from Sunagakure respects him, and I saw a Sunagakure jonin taking notes. These are hidden assets. When we go east, it will make things easier for the sect. Kakuzu sighed. I understand, but the shinobi sect is running out of money. Officially, the sect's status equaled another rain village, but the daimyo wouldn't subsidize them like a real village. They had little financial support, and 2 months of full-time special training had drained their funds. Kakuzu had even dipped into his own pocket. Nagato blinked. Money management wasn't his strength, but he'd learned the importance of funds during his wandering. I can hold on with my savings for a while, but moving east will cost more. For an organization aiming at peace, this is unhealthy. Yahiko opened his mouth to suggest taking missions, but closed it. Taking on missions was the usual way for shinobi to earn ryo, but the sect stood for something different, and going east to do major things meant few would accept the lower-paying, ad hoc work. Akatsuki had barely made enough to operate. As a new force, they couldn't count on big missions. Muyo considered the situation a moment. I can subsidize a bit myself, he said. He'd completed many high-level jobs in Konoha and saved, and I have an idea to earn money and help the Land of Rain. Kakuzu's expression shifted. If Mu Yue had a plan, Kakuzu wanted to hear it. Mu Yue continued, I'll use my ninjutsu as prizes and hold a competition for young shinobi. The top 3 get jutsu as rewards. First place wins Fire Dragon Dance. We'll collect entry fees, sell tickets, rent stalls to merchants. That should make money. Kakuzu thought it through and realized it could work and bring prestige, racked better missions, and showcase the sect's strength. Since it was a youth competition and Nagato would compete, Kakuzu didn't think other villages had someone stronger. Why didn't you think of this earlier? He asked, impressed. Mu Yue simply smiled. Memories from another world helped him connect the dots. Lectures boosted reputation, reputation sold tickets, tickets earned money. Kakuzu began planning seating tiers, front-row seats for daimyo and nobles sold at higher prices. It would be a huge stir. Yesterday, thousands had seen Mu Yue kill Yakura with Fire Dragon Dance instantly. If he were a bounty hunter now, Kakuzu joked, he'd disguise himself as a youth to enter. Even if he couldn't learn fire dragon dance, he could fence it for a fortune. Meanwhile, Obito had taken Fire Dragon out for additional exercise to reduce his belly fat and discovered a perfect training trick. Hypnotize him with his Sharingan. When Fire Dragon neared the end of a session, Obito would use his 3 Tomoe Sharingan to leave the Pokémon believing he had a third more training to do. Fire Dragon felt he'd done the usual amount, but in reality, he'd done more. No matter the trick, his body grew exhausted. Fire Dragon's strength seemed to be dipping. He was constantly tired. Fire Dragon, he complained to the translator with a doleful face. He didn't know if he'd grown fat or simply eaten too much, but exhaustion weighed on him. You've been cultivating long. You'll probably get used to it, Zorua soothed. Used to it? Fire Dragon blinked. How could that change? I feel like you're catching up to Riolu, Zorua muttered. You should rest more. If you're so diligent, Shisui might think I'm lazy. Zorua wanted Fire Dragon back to his old self. Fire Dragon's eyes widened as a sudden flash of lightning ran through his mind. This didn't feel right. He took Zorua and confronted Obito. It's Zorua. You must be wrong. It's always been this training amount, Obito said, awkwardly trying to pin the issue on Zorua. Is that so? Then I'll ask Rockruff, Zorua said, heading off to find a witness who'd argued with Obito before. Obito broke into a sweat. If the matter escalated, how would Rin view this? He'd meant it for Fire Dragon's good, but using the Sharingan to hypnotize extra training was questionable. To resolve things quickly, he blurted out the truth. All right, to help you lose weight, I hypnotized you with my Sharingan. Your recent training is actually 1/3 more than usual. Zorua looked first surprised, then impressed. Compared to Obito's scheme, his pranks seemed trivial. Fire Dragon's pupils narrowed in disbelief. There was actually such a cruel person in the world. Anger surged through him, fueling power in his body. Awoo! He roared. A blinding white light, brighter than when he'd hatched, burst from his form. The sudden radiance drew every disciple in the south border forest toward Obito's corner. Haven't all the nin beast eggs finished hatching? Why's there still white light? Kakashi wondered. He hadn't seen Mu Yue give Yamato an egg, and Yamato hadn't taken one out, so this was odd. Obito, what happened? Rin asked, walking up. Ah! Obito laughed uneasily, scrambling for an explanation. He was bewildered himself. Could Fire Dragon be reacting so violently he'd revert to an egg? Yamato scratched his head, confused. He'd missed the original egg hatching and couldn't make sense of the new light. Before Obito could cover his tracks, all the disciples gathered, staring at the white glow. 512. Obito's Hell. The white light faded, and Obito finally saw the transformed Fire Dragon. Gone was the orange hide. Charmeleon's skin burned a fiercer red. Its once short limbs had lengthened and thickened into powerful legs and arms. Sharp claws sliced its hands. Its mouth had become hooked like a bird's beak. The most surprising change was a horn-like nub sprouting from its forehead. It made the creature look unexpectedly handsome. Is this Fire Dragon? Rin Nohara asked, uncertain. She had seen the hatchling that morning. Even with rapid growth, it shouldn't have changed this dramatically. Fire Dragon had only been out 0.6 meters then. Now, Rin guessed Charmeleon was over a meter tall. Kakashi looked equally puzzled. It was Obito's Fire Dragon, unmistakably, but after a flash of white light, it was as if the beast had suddenly matured 2 years. He turned to Mu Yue. The nin beast egg had come from Mu Yue, so she would know why. This is evolution, Mu Yue explained. Some creatures undergo a complete transformation when they reach a certain stage, like a caterpillar forming a cocoon and becoming a butterfly. Your 9 beasts are similar. After evolving, they get stronger, and their appearance changes. Kakashi could grasp the analogy but couldn't fully reconcile it. Why would a creature like Fire Dragon share traits with caterpillars? Obito, however, seized the important part and brightened. His Fire Dragon had suddenly gained the results of years of training. It's stronger then? He asked eagerly. You could say that, Mu Yue nodded. Beyond new skills and physical growth, Charmeleon's chakra surged the instant it evolved. What will Rin's evolution be like? Rin asked, curious, trying to imagine Phoebus changing the way Fire Dragon had. It didn't seem to fit. The change will be significant, no less than an insect cocooning and emerging as a butterfly, Mu Yue said, leaving some things unsaid. She believed it was best for Rin to nurture Phoebas naturally for now. Rin's eyes lit up. Her smile, bright and earnest, made Obito puff out his chest. Rin, let's work hard. Phoebas will evolve soon. Fire Dragon hatched with Phoebas, and since Fire Dragon evolved, Phoebas must be close. Kakashi shook his head. Evolution likely varied between species. He'd hatched first. So by Obito's logic, his Rockruff should evolve first. Charmeleon, feeling its newfound strength, flexed an arm and glared at Obito. It didn't appreciate being toyed with. Charmeleon! Zorua hopped onto Shisui's shoulder and blurted out the translation. Everyone, scatter! Charmeleon settling this with Obito now. Kakashi darted away. He'd felt uneasy about Obito from the start. Yamato followed. Shisui took Zorua aside to watch. Rin stepped back too. Before Obito could react, the clearing was cleared of everyone but him and Charmeleon. Charmeleon opened its mouth and spat smoke as it listed grievances. Zorua related, "You twisted my mind and used genjutsu to deceive me. Obito, your crimes are heinous. 3 months on this side of the river, 3 months on the other. Don't bully the young dragon," Zorua added dramatically. Shisui gave Zorua a terse smack on the head. "Have you been reading ninja novels?" he said. "Don't make up lines for Fire Dragon," Obito conceded. "I was wrong to use genjutsu," he admitted, "but I did it for your good. If you don't know how long you've trained, you keep going harder, and you actually get more exercise." Charmeleon howled in discontent. Hypnosis couldn't erase its physical tiredness. Zorua translated, and Charmeleon, stung, decided to fight. "Smokescreen," it barked, belching a cloud of gray fog and charging. Obito hadn't expected a special move. Inside the smoke, he lost sight of Charmeleon, and, unprepared, took a sharp kick. Charmeleon grinned. This was easy. But Obito quietly activated his Sharingan and wove his breathing into flame-breathing chakra mode. His 3-tomo Sharingan pierced through the haze and found the beast. When Charmeleon swiped, Obito caught the arm, turned, and heaved, an over-the-shoulder throw that slammed Charmeleon into the ground. Charmeleon scrambled up and spat flames. Obito, already in flame-breathing chakra mode, performed instant nature transformation, opened his mouth, and released a blast. The two flames collided. Obito's was thicker and won. Smoke parted to reveal Obito standing while Charmeleon lay sprawled. Charmeleon's humiliation only fueled it. Flames licked along its tail. It surged up and charged with raw force. The dragon's headbutt sent Obito flying 3 meters. Kakashi hid his face out of second-hand embarrassment. Shisui turned away. Rin opened her mouth, then kept silent. Obito probably needed that. Obito staggered to his feet and re-entered flame-breathing chakra mode. He gathered all his chakra and summoned a massive fireball, the Flame Emperor, a blazing sphere taller than a 3-story building. Obito stared at Charmeleon so hard he dared not meet anyone else's eyes. The south border forest felt like hell. He wanted to scorch it all. Charmeleon looked up at the towering inferno and froze. Suddenly the dragon saw Obito in a new light. He wasn't just cruel, he was powerful, and he'd worked to become so. Obito took 2 steps forward with the Flame Emperor in hand. Charmeleon swallowed, and hands trembling, wiped hot sweat from its brow. At the last second, Obito canceled the attack. Charmeleon, now ashamed and oddly softened, helped brush dust from Obito's clothes. The two looked like friends again. "I'll be more considerate from now on," Obito said, contrite. "If I ever use hypnosis again, I'll ease you into it and build up gradually." Charmeleon bowed its head, touched. "I'll fight you again when I evolve and get stronger," it decided. "What happened is good, even if I don't understand all of it," Rin said, clasping her hands and smiling. She'd let them be because she trusted Obito wouldn't go too far, and he hadn't. Kakashi stroked Rockruff's head, thinking. He didn't care much about appearance changes. He wanted to know how strong Rockruff would become. Fire Dragon had been at a disadvantage for hatching late. After evolving into Charmeleon, its abilities had surged. Taijutsu and ninjutsu improved noticeably. While Charmeleon still lost if Obito went all out, Obito at full strength was comparable to a jonin. For a beast only a few months old to reach that level surprised Kakashi. Rockruff perked up at Kakashi's curiosity and bounded off to train, eager to evolve. "You don't have to rush," Kakashi called after it. "Just take it step by step." Rockruff grew even more determined. Being bonded to Kakashi felt like a stroke of luck. "Shisui, Don't use genjutsu to force my training, or I'll be angry, Zorua warned, not wanting to be tricked into exhaustion like Charmeleon. Shisui tapped Zorua's head with 2 fingers. And you shouldn't use genjutsu to mess with others either, he said. Obito's methods were extreme. Shisui wouldn't imitate them. If training needed to be increased, he'd explain the pros and cons to Zorua. Rin walked to the pond to check on Phoebus. She'd considered letting it loose in the river where there was more space and other aquatic life, but she worried Phoebus might wander off and be eaten. For safety, she kept it in the pond. Phoebus, fire dragon evolved today, Rin told the fish. Mu Yue said you can evolve too, and it'll be like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. Maybe you'll grow wings. Wouldn't that be something? Phoebus stared with its dull, blank eyes. Rin smiled. You probably haven't seen caterpillars or butterflies. I'll draw them for you when we get home. She stroked Phoebus gently. I'm going to train now, she murmured. Kakashi and the others are strong and working hard. I can't give up. I need to protect myself and not be a burden. As Rin walked away, Phoebus swam fast in the small pond. That was all it could do to train, move more, build its body. In its current state, it couldn't help Rin. Only by evolving could it become the kind of partner who would stand at her side. 513, the teacher of the ninja world Land of Rain. Day 3 of the unrestricted lecture. After the excitement generated by the first 2 days, even more shinobi flocked to the Land of Rain to see whether Ninja Master Sosuke's teaching ability matched the rumors. Attendance ballooned. That made management harder for the shinobi sect. After all, they still only had a little over 100 official members, and corralling more than 1,000 visiting ninja was no small task. Luckily, most of the visitors had already attended previous days and didn't want to risk being barred from the remaining lessons, so they behaved. Any disorder was cut off quickly. Ninjutsu is a combination of chakra nature transformation, chakra shape transformation, and chakra control. Mu Yue, known to many as Sosuke, concluded. Whether it's fire release, water release, yin or yang release, the essence is the same. That was why 2 people using the same technique could look so different in practice. One needed all the hand seals, another could simplify them, another needed only 1 seal or even none. Differences in nature transformation, chakra control, and understanding of the technique itself made all the difference. The realization struck many attending ninja. Most never reached this level of thinking. Their contact with ninjutsu came in 3 channels: Ninja Academy, clan training systems, or instruction from family elders. Teachers in those places were usually no higher than chuunin, sometimes jonin at best. A chuunin who had learned fire release chakra nature and knew a few standard fire techniques was already considered outstanding. Broad, conceptual insights like Sosuke's were rare. It's a pity I didn't come the first 2 days, a latecomer muttered. Even the first sentence had already justified attending. But that doesn't mean you can just mix things arbitrarily, Sosuke continued. Different chakra natures have different characteristics. Fire burns and creates heat. Wind slices, water adapts. Based on those traits, we can shape techniques, use shape transformation to make water release sharp and penetrating, or to disperse it into mist to obstruct vision. Sosuke spoke with a depth that left the crowd thinking. His knowledge of so many techniques came not only from his own dozens of years' cultivation, but from the cultivation memories the system had instilled. So every time he unlocked a master-level jutsu, it felt like years of practice in his mind, even if only a second had passed in reality. That gave him an uncanny fluency in explanation, concrete, nuanced, and consistently insightful. This is a true ninjutsu professor, Hanzo thought, recalling his own defeat by Sosuke. The lecture had only scratched the surface, but Hanzo could already sense how terrifyingly broad Sosuke's mastery was. A ninja proficient in 7 chakra natures who'd also done deep study into a wide array of techniques would be extremely hard to counter. He could always pull some ability out of his arsenal to neutralize an opponent. Hanzo had once assumed Sosuke was merely a fire specialist, which was why Sosuke had used fire in their duel and seemed easy to counter. Now Hanzo realized Sosuke had likely been confident that his fire alone was sufficient. He hadn't shown everything. That stung. Hanzo had poured so much importance into their rivalry, but it turned out Sosuke hadn't taken him seriously. Hanzo swallowed the embarrassment and focused on the lecture. This was no time to get distracted. When the session ended, Hanzo planned to return to Rain Ninja Village. He'd been away for 3 days and felt guilty. Tomorrow morning, we'll continue on ninjutsu, focusing more on chakra control. The afternoon will be on taijutsu, Sosuke announced. Hanzo hesitated. He'd already stayed 3 days. I might as well stick around for another half day, he thought. If the lecture were a novel with 3 volumes, he didn't want to miss even the last part. Hanzo came for a few minutes of the taijutsu session to satisfy his curiosity, then lost himself in it. The afternoon ended and he was still stunned. He resolved to leave the next day after the full morning class. Days stretched on. The 4th, 5th, 6th, more and more people crowded in, and Hanzo found himself further back each time. By the morning of the 7th day, he looked at himself in the hotel mirror in disbelief. He had not returned to his village even once in the whole week, simply to listen to Sosuke. Well, since it's come to this, I'll listen to the lecture first, he told himself and hurried to the grounds. Sosuke had prepared carefully for these unrestricted lectures. He chose to teach big-picture principles rather than give away single secret techniques. He also considered whether he might repeat this on a larger scale later. The advanced class evaluations were lucrative, and if conditions allowed, he'd continue farming them. But there were limits. Truly advanced techniques, breathing methods, secret armament techniques, couldn't be casually handed out. So Sosuke distilled his experience into general discussions that carried practical depth. That planning had paid off. His concise, hard-hitting points were being recorded and spread, bringing in more listeners. Teacher Sosuke, will there be more opportunities to attend lectures in the future? Someone asked. There will be, but I haven't set the time yet, Sosuke replied after a thought. Many faces brightened. Guidance from a ninja of his caliber was a rare gift, whether the listener was a rogue or from a village. For members of the Shinobi sect, the chance of receiving instruction directly from Sosuke, if not always from his main body, was particularly high. Yahiko felt his dream inch closer to reality. Since joining the Shinobi sect, he'd been steadily moving forward. The lectures were a big boost. Nagato, who alone knew Sosuke's true identity, smiled, quietly absorbing how much Sosuke had sacrificed. Sosuke wasn't from the land of rain at all. He was from the land of fire, a Konoha ninja, yet he'd come to the rain for peace and anonymity. That kind of commitment from someone so powerful impressed Nagato even more. At 9 o'clock, Sosuke began the final lecture of the unrestricted series. No special ceremony, he taught as usual, and the students drank it in. When he finished and smiled, all lectures have concluded. I hope everyone has gained something. The crowd realized the advertised 7 days were over, and this was the last session. Many bowed earnestly. Teacher Sosuke, thank you for your guidance, they said. Even those who'd attended for only 2 days felt like Sosuke's students. His teaching had made the title Ninja Master feel substantial. People had doubted that anyone would give away knowledge this freely, but Sosuke hadn't taught specific secret techniques. He'd taught perspective, lessons that to many felt deeper than any single powerful jutsu. That generated pride and reverence. Even the Rain Village ninja, who typically revered figures like Hanzo for sparing worthy opponents, found Sosuke's actions on a different level. Hanzo gave a slight, soundless bow. He recognized the benefit of Sosuke's instruction, but balked at addressing him as teacher. A nearby rain ninja, noticing Hanzo's restrained gesture, whispered surprise. Hanzo suppressed the urge to reveal himself and withheld comment. Sosuke next announced a new project. The Shinobi sect will soon establish a formal headquarters in the east of the Land of Rain. We'll hold a youth martial arts tournament. Ninjas 18 and under may sign up. The first place prize will be Fire Dragon Dance. Other rewards will be announced when the tournament opens. The crowd went quiet. Over 1,000 of them had seen Sosuke's Fire Dragon Dance and knew how devastating it had been when he used it to defeat Hanzo. The idea of winning it sent shivers through many. Several discovered with dismay that they were 19 this year and thus ineligible. Kitsuchi was surprised, too. He'd seen the technique firsthand and hadn't expected Sosuke to offer such a powerful jutsu as a prize. Yakura mentally made a note to eyes the tournament back in her village. If nothing else, putting the chance out there was useful. Hanzo's face darkened. The memory of his defeat and the global spread of the story scalded him. Perhaps in 10 years, he'd be remembered less as the demigod of the ninja world and more as the man who had stood behind Sosuke's glory. Kakuzu observed the eager faces and smirked. Sosuke was about to make a fortune. With the lectures complete, the visiting ninja dispersed. The Shinobi sect prepared to move to the eastern land Sosuke had requested be set aside as their base. The Rain Daimyo approved 350 square kilometers, only slightly larger than Konoha's death forest and mostly barren, with a few impoverished villages. Not ideal, but Sosuke saw opportunity. Build on barren land, use the Shinobi sect's reputation to develop the economy, accept refugees and migrants who would arrive when the sect proved its strength. They'd already started building simple housing at the base. They needed a name. Yahiko suggested Shinobi Sect Village, but Conan found it clumsy. Nagato proposed Peace City to reflect the sect's goal. Kakuzu preferred Ninja Master City, thinking it would attract followers and money. Sosuke offered Six Path City and left the choice to a vote. Six Path City won decisively. Construction began with enthusiasm, and Sosuke's influence rippled through the ninja world. The crisp phrases from his lectures, the Fire Dragon Dance victory, thousands bowing, rumors mounted. Some went so far as to call him the contemporary Six-Path Sage. Responses came in from the great nations. Iwagakure's Tsuchikage Onoki listened to Kitsuchi's report with interest. "Is he really that good a teacher? Even you benefited?" he asked, surprised. Kitsuchi confirmed it. Even on the last day, the crowds had bowed sincerely in thanks. Onoki considered commissioning Sosuke to help train Iwagakure ninjas. Outsourcing military training had risks, but Kitsuchi's praise made him think it worth a trial. He'd send younger shinobi first as a test, especially since Iwagakure had little fire release and couldn't afford to let Konoha gain an advantage in the forthcoming youth tournament. In Tsunagakure, Kazekage Rasa berated Yakura for the humiliation. He'd always been at odds with her, and this was a convenient opportunity to scold her publicly. Yakura defended Sosuke's strength and urged Rasa to let promising shinobi compete in the tournament. Rasa, though scornful at first, later studied the shinobi sect's intelligence and realized Sosuke was more than a threat. He was a magnet. If Sosuke's influence continued growing, it could soon reach for nearby territories like the Land of Wind. In Konoha, Danzo Shimura took an even darker view. He suspected Sosuke's mastery of 7 chakra natures and his profound ninjutsu knowledge were tied to ninshu or other ancient inheritances, not mere self-cultivation. He ordered root operatives in the Land of Rain to reconnect with Hanzo and discuss eliminating the perceived threat of the shinobi sect. Danzo planned to brief the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, about Sosuke's danger. By the time the unrestricted lectures ended, the ripples had become waves. Sosuke had not only taught technical insight, but planted a new force on the map, Six Path City, the shinobi sect, and a teacher who had captured the respect of thousands. The ninja world had taken notice, and not everyone would be pleased. Chapter 513, Danzo, You're a Bit Too Dark Konoha. Hokage Building, High-Level Conference Room. Given the current trend, the shinobi sect could become a rain village even stronger than the one we fought in the last shinobi war. If they join forces with the existing rain village, the Land of Rain will develop into a terrifying power capable of threatening the 5 great shinobi villages. Danzo Shimura said with a grave expression, stressing the danger the Land of Rain now posed. During the Second Shinobi World War, Konoha and the Rain Village fought fiercely. Konoha's forces cut through the Rain Ninja like a hot knife through butter, but under Hanzo's command, the Rain Village still inflicted heavy losses on Konoha. Many of Konoha's best fell to Hanzo. If the shinobi sect matured into what it seemed to be becoming, and allied with Hanzo's Rain Village, Danzo couldn't begin to estimate how much force would be needed to secure a reliable victory. But the shinobi sect and the Rain Village are mortal enemies, aren't they? How could they possibly unite? Homura Mitokado asked, pushing his glasses up. Apart from the now famous Sosuke, the shinobi sect had always been seen as a small organization of maybe 100 people. None at the table besides Danzo, who had been watching the Land of Rain closely, knew the truth. The Shinobi sect and the Rain Village had already signed a peace agreement. As high officials of the 5 great villages and still in a time of war, they naturally paid more attention to intelligence from the other major villages than to a tiny, remote organization. Root's latest reports confirm it. The Shinobi sect and the Rain Village have reconciled and signed a cooperation treaty, Danzo said, laying out Root's information. There are quite a few ninja wearing rain headbands attending Sosuke's classes. That wouldn't be possible without reconciliation. Hiruzen Sarutobi read the report thoughtfully. Utane Koharu frowned. Could this all be a show? How could such deep-rooted enmity be resolved so easily? Koharu suspected that Sosuke's sudden fame might be a ploy with Hanzo. How long had it been since Hanzo ambushed the Shinobi sect? Hatreds of that intensity don't evaporate in a flash. It's not impossible, Homura conceded after thinking it over. Sosuke appeared out of nowhere. Maybe the Shinobi sect originated from the Rain Village. Perhaps all of this is to strengthen the Land of Rain's power. Reviewing Sosuke's actions since his rise, Homura sketched a scenario where the Shinobi sect and Rain Village were originally connected. First, Hanzo and Sosuke staged a conflict to boost Sosuke's fame. Then Sosuke used the attention to recruit and expand the sect. Danzo, who'd observed events firsthand, found it hard to keep a straight face. He remembered the fight. Sosuke's fire release had killed dozens of Rain elite ninja, hardly a staged performance. Homura and Koharu's speculations sounded to him like amateurs impersonating Konoha's high officials. Still, Danzo couldn't reveal what he knew. Doing so would expose his own violations during the Rain incident. It shouldn't be like that. Why would Hanzo sacrifice his reputation to help Sosuke? Danzo objected. Hanzo was regarded as a demigod, a top-tier warrior, not someone who'd tarnish his name for a stunt. Yet ever since Sosuke's supposed victory, the rumor mill credited Sosuke as the one who bested Hanzo with a counter-attribute fire release, the fabled Fire Dragon Dance. Hanzo had become a backdrop to Sosuke's technique. Why not? Perhaps Sosuke is Hanzo's successor, the future head of the Rain Village. He waits for the Shinobi sect to grow, then merges the forces, Utatane offered, feeling she'd hit on something. Danzo's mouth twitched at the thought. He remembered Hanzo's fury. He would have liked nothing more than to kill Sosuke then and there. Successor, indeed. Root reports that Sosuke has killed a number of Rain ninja, Danzo added, deliberately vague to avoid revealing too much. It might be Hanzo and Sosuke eliminating dissident TFs. Those killed were opponents of Hanzo, Koharu proposed. Her theory neatly explained the current turmoil in the Land of Rain, and it made Danzo want to tell her she was being a little too dark. How did the situation become eliminating dissidents? Small villages rarely produced giants like Hanzo. Who could stand against him? We can't underestimate Sosuke. Even if he's cooperating with Hanzo, the instant killing of Yakura is a fact. Yakura wouldn't stage that and ruin her honor, Homura said, rejecting Koharu's darker inference. As a Sunagakure hero, Yakura would not allow herself to be humiliated that way. In any case, the Shinobi sect is a huge threat to Konoha. We must deal with them, Danzo said, playing along with the conspiracy. His real aim was to mobilize Konoha's power against the sect. Since he couldn't fully explain his reasons, he joined the consensus toward action. If the Shinobi sect grew unchecked, Danzo wanted Root to eventually seize the Rinnegan and Ninshu heritage. Iwagakure is avoiding fighting anyway. Send Jiraiya with part of the forces into the Land of Rain to nip this in the bud, Danzo proposed. With Sosuke's strength and allies like Kakuzu and Nagato, a full-scale invasion would be dangerous, but a limited force led by Jiraiya might create enough chaos for Root to claim the Ninshu and Rinnegan. Hiruzen exhaled pipe smoke and looked helpless. The Shinobi sect hasn't provoked Konoha. On what grounds can Konoha attack them? Danzo wanted an opponent for Konoha now that the war had eased. Hiruzen refused to pick needless fights. There are inhumane, high-powered destructive ninjutsu hidden in the Shinobi sect, Danzo countered. If you truly feel they're a threat, have Root watch them closely. We shouldn't make unnecessary enemies, Hiruzen insisted. Attacking the sect without cause would only harm Konoha's reputation. They mustn't be allowed to develop. With Sosuke's teaching ability, the Shinobi sect will soon have top-tier fighters and a solid lower and mid-level base, Danzo said, pushing his argument. I actually think Mu Yue is better at teaching than Sosuke, Hiruzen chuckled. Although Sosuke's fame and feats impressed him, Hiruzen had seen Mu Yue's teaching firsthand. Large-scale training, holiday drills, the transformations in students like Asuma. Mu Yue's methods had proved themselves up close. This isn't about who's the better teacher. We can have Mu Yue and still prevent Sosuke from taking root in the land of rain, Danzo replied. He didn't deny Mu Yue's skills. He'd entrusted Yamato to him, after all. But he preferred removing the Shinobi sect entirely if possible. Rather than make war, I think we should pay attention to the youth martial arts tournament Sosuke plans to hold. That's caused quite a stir, Hiruzen said. He was curious about the reputed fire dragon dance and preferred to observe rather than provoke a top-tier fighter for no reason. Homura and Koharu sided with Hiruzen. Danzo was left frustrated. He had devoted himself to Konoha, but felt constrained by two officials he thought were playing at being senior leaders. Still, Danzo kept his temper. If he couldn't get the council's backing, he'd act through other means, perhaps with Hanzo's cooperation. Danzo sent root operatives to the Rain Village to contact Hanzo. Hanzo's face darkened when he learned Root was there. He blamed Danzo for his current state. If Danzo hadn't exposed him among Iwagakure's dead, he wouldn't have clashed with the Shinobi sect and been defeated by Sosuke. Despite his anger, Hanzo didn't drive Root away outright. They represented Konoha, but he refused to meet them personally. He sent subordinates to inquire about their motives. When Hanzo learned Danzo wanted to continue cooperating to eliminate the Shinobi sect, he became furious. He wasn't sure whether Iwagakure or Danzo had done him greater harm, but now he was sure. Danzo had bad intentions. With the Shinobi sect's current strength, even if the Rain Village and Danzo succeeded, Rain would be severely weakened, and Hanzo himself would not survive Sosuke. If he entered the battle, Sosuke would kill him. If he stayed out, the Rain Village alone couldn't defeat the sect. Refuse him. Our internal affairs don't need Konoha meddling, Hanzo replied decisively. When his refusal reached Konoha, Danzo slammed the table in frustration. Why would Hanzo refuse? With such a threat, hadn't Hanzo feared being replaced? Danzo briefly entertained Koharu's conspiracy that the sect and Rain were one, but he knew that was only a surface appearance. In truth, Hanzo had been beaten into submission by Sosuke and now feared him like a tiger. Danzo scorned that fear. If it were his village at stake, he'd fight to the end. If we can't remove the Shinobi sect now, we'll focus on the Ninshu heritage, Danzo decided. Though he wanted the Rinnegan and Ninshu inheritance in Sosuke's possession, no one really knew what form that heritage took. Six Paths tools, secret techniques, or something else. It's a pity Yamato still needs time to develop. A mere Shinobi sect wouldn't stand a chance against him. Danzo thought of the wood-release ninja he had high hopes for. Unlike the Rinnegan and Ninshu heritage, Yamato was his trained subordinate. With time, he could become a trump card. Elsewhere, Danzo's attention shifted to his disciples' training. They need more combat experience. If they only train and never fight, they'll stumble in real battle. Obito suggested enthusiastically. Kakashi agreed. Combat experience was crucial. We're stronger, so we must be careful not to injure them, Obito added. Let them fight each other. Rivalry will spark their desire to train. Though Obito couldn't beat Kakashi yet, if his nin beast could defeat Kakashi's, he'd count that as a moral victory. Right now, Obito's Charmeleon was the only evolved nin beast and the strongest among them, a fleeting advantage he intended to enjoy. Kakashi wore a thoughtful expression. It was obvious what Obito had in mind. He was trying to stack the matches to give Charmeleon an evolutionary edge. Still, Kakashi couldn't deny the arrangement had genuine training value for the nin beasts. I think it's fine, he said after a moment. Obito's motives weren't pure, but the matches would still benefit everyone. Rin withdrew Phoebus. Phoebus simply couldn't fight on land. It could bump things around in water, but it had no real combat ability outside of it. Rin wouldn't force a useless match just for appearances. The others nodded in agreement. It was unavoidable. Youth is for fighting, Metkai declared. Combat was part of training in his view. Zoro is fine, Shisui said, also nodding. Then that's 4. We'll use our usual rules, Obito said, already a bit impatient. No one objected. The draw results came out quickly. Charmeleon was number 1, Zorua number 2, Rockruff number 3, and Riolu number 4. Obito felt a twinge of disappointment. He'd wanted Charmeleon to face Rockruff in the first round. Don't lose to Riolu, whatever you do, he silently urged Rockruff. If Charmeleon didn't meet Rockruff in the second round, even if it became the strongest among the students, Obito would still regret it. Kakashi could always find an excuse. Riolu gave Obito a puzzled, almost speechless look. "This is our bond," Metkai crowed at Kakashi. Kakashi smiled wryly. There were only 4 nin beasts. Of course they'd face one another. First match, Charmeleon versus Zorua, Kakashi announced as referee. Both nin beasts stepped into the arena. Charmeleon sighed. It and Zorua had a good relationship. Zorua often translated for it to Obito, and they chatted frequently. Now Charmeleon had to fight its best translator, and it found it hard to strike. "Let's both go all out. Holding back makes winning meaningless," Zorua said breezily. Although Charmeleon had evolved once, Zorua wasn't intimidated. In Zorua's eyes, both Charmeleon and Obito were a bit dull. The outcome was anyone's guess. Charmeleon nodded. "Begin," Kakashi called. The instant Kakashi's voice fell, Zorua condensed chakra and cast genjutsu. Its appearance shifted in everyone's eyes. Obito blinked when an image of Obito, appeared in the arena beside Charmeleon. What on earth? Why did Zorua turn into him? Shisui shook his head. That trick might work against other opponents, Kakashi's Rockruff or Guy's Riolu, but not this pairing. Between Obito and Charmeleon, it wouldn't distract. It might even rile Charmeleon up. Charmeleon lunged forward. It had planned to hold back, but seeing Zorua turn into Obito felt like an insult. Thick, dark smoke rolled from Charmeleon's mouth, enveloping both it and the disguised Zorua. Zorua's voice echoed in everyone's minds, taunting, "Obito, why are you so weak? Charmeleon isn't afraid of you at all." Obito didn't know whether to laugh or frown. Zorua, insulting him, was getting pummeled by Charmeleon, and Charmeleon seemed to enjoy beating him up too. The smoke cleared to reveal Zorua, bruised and dazed. "Darn Charmeleon, now I'm serious!" Zorua snapped, dropping the illusion and returning to its true form. It spat a large gout of flame at Charmeleon. Charmeleon recoiled, and Zorua's fire split into several streams that wrapped around it. Charmeleon tried to dodge and retaliated with its own flames, only to find something odd. Zorua's fire seemed to occupy a different plane. Charmeleon's flames passed straight through them without interacting, as if they were theoretical rather than physical. Zorua grinned slyly and swiped a paw, knocking Charmeleon back 3 steps. "Charmeleon, are you really going to lose to an unevolved Zorua?" Obito called, egging it on. The insult lit Charmeleon's tail flame. It couldn't bear the thought of actually losing to Zorua. Zorua kept up its trick, spitting real fireballs in a style resembling Shisui's fire release techniques. To Charmeleon, they blazed fiercely, real, scorching fire. "Roar!" Charmeleon held its ground, condensed most of its chakra in its throat, converted it into fire release, and expelled one long, thick column of flame, about the thickness of an adult thigh, directly at Zorua. Even as Zorua's fireballs closed in, Charmeleon didn't flinch. "Ah, it's hot! Shisui, save me!" Zorua yelped as it was burned. It had been banking on Charmeleon dodging and had spent chakra maintaining the genjutsu rather than protecting its body. "Rin, I'll trouble you," Shisui said. Rin was already forming hand signs. She extinguished the remaining flames on Zorua and then used mystical palm technique to heal it. It's too bad Zorua only just learned fire release chakra transformation. A mix of real and illusory would have been better, Shisui mused. Zorua's offensive ninjutsu was still underdeveloped. Shisui had been teaching it, but it had only managed chakra nature transformation for fire, not true fire release techniques yet. "Charmeleon wins," Kakashi announced. Obito strutted over, chest puffed, and patted Charmeleon's shoulder. "Very good. As expected of a nin beast trained by my own hands." Charmeleon reflexively spat a small flame at Obito. He was so used to Charmeleon that he dodged with a tilt of his head and looked back indulgently. Charmeleon jabbed a claw toward Zorua, then saluted in a mock French-style gesture, trying to make it clear it hadn't really been mad at Obito. It had only misinterpreted because Zorua had become Obito during the fight. "You go on, I'm listening," Obito said, getting into flame-breathing chakra mode and condensing flames in his hand. "Obito, don't hog the arena. There's still another match in the first round," Kakashi warned. Obito dispersed the flames, left the arena with Charmeleon, and played with it as a reward. He wasn't going to fight Charmeleon seriously. Shisui held the healed Zoro aside and went over its mistakes. "Shisui, why didn't you warn me back there? I might have won otherwise," Zoro pressed, nudging his head against Shisui. "As a spectator, it's not proper to shout advice," Shisui replied. Zoro widened its eyes. "But we'll be fighting together in the future. Won't you remind me during matches?" "Of course not," Shisui said, then thought better of it. He realized that Nin Beast versus Nin Beast fights couldn't strictly follow the same rules as internal sparring. Contractors would inevitably give commands. He decided not to press the point now and planned to discuss it with Kakashi after the matches. Rockruff and Riolu entered the arena together, each brimming with fighting spirit. Neither wanted to disappoint their contractor. "Begin," Kakashi called. "Shadow Clone." Rockruff activated chakra and produced 5 shadow clones. The 6 Rockruffs ran in intersecting patterns, making it nearly impossible for Riolu to pick out the real one visually. Riolu took a deep breath, centered itself, and used its innate aura to sense. Its aura can detect emotions and, to a degree, gauge strength. Guided by aura, Riolu ignored the illusions, locked onto the real Rockruff, and poured chakra into its body to dash forward at extreme speed. Flash! Riolu's charging form slammed into the real Rockruff, sending it tumbling backward several times. Kakashi watched, impressed. Though Rockruff's clones weren't solid, they were visually indistinguishable and very deceptive. Rockruff sprang up, unhurt enough, and immediately shifted tactics. It ran to evade Riolu while gathering chakra for Earth-release chakra transformation. As Riolu charged again, Rockruff spun and sent a spray of sand into Riolu's face. Riolu's eyes filled with grit, forcing it to close them and then reopen with a blur. Rockruff seized the moment, slammed into Riolu, and quickly gathered chakra overhead to form a 1-meter-tall rock, then hurled it. Riolu, though only about 0.7 meters tall, braced and swung its palm upward. The small blue fighter's strike met the falling boulder, and with a loud crack, shattered it into pieces. Obito gaped. "If I hit a rock like that, I don't think I could break it so cleanly," he muttered. "Mere rocks are no match for bodies trained day and night." Metkai crowed, giving Riolu a thumbs up. Riolu's raw strength didn't make Rockruff back down. It knew Riolu's eyes would still be uncomfortable, so Rockruff flashed behind Riolu and struck its back. With vision blurred and the dust from the shattered rock, Riolu took the full hit and fell forward. Zzz! Rockruff opened its jaws and rapidly transformed the chakra in its mouth into lightning release, coating its fangs with electricity, and bit Riolu's leg. Riolu gathered chakra to defend at the last instant, but still suffered a painful wound. The lightning release wasn't strong enough to paralyze, it only left the leg tingling. As expected of Kakashi's Nin Beast, just as cunning as he is, Obito murmured. If a leg is injured in a real fight and you can't move, it's almost over. Rockruff's already learning other nature transformations, Shisui said, surprised. Being the earliest hatched Nin Beast, Rockruff indeed had something special. Metal Claw. Riolu gritted its teeth and raised a claw that glinted like metal. Rockruff hadn't expected such a coordinated counterattack while it was delivering Lightning Fang. Caught off guard, it was sent flying and slammed to the ground. Riolu's blow did more damage than Rockruff expected, nearly knocking it out. Rockruff struggled up, Kakashi's brow tightened. Riolu's taijutsu power exceeded expectations. Rockruff had a good physique, but Riolu's strike almost kept it down. Mu Yue watched thoughtfully. If Pokemon can use chakra, they're being localized by the system. Pokemon types and elemental weaknesses are more varied than chakra natures in the Naruto world. She'd guessed that common elements, water, fire, earth, lightning, would carry over and rarer types like steel or dragon might not. But the battle showed something else. The original Pokemon elemental weaknesses still existed, manifesting as unique chakra flavors. Every ninja's chakra is distinct. Sensory ninja can identify people by it. Some chakra has special properties. Kushina's chakra could suppress tailed beasts, for example. After localization, Pokemon types translate into special kinds of chakra that retain their original effectiveness and weaknesses. That's why Riolu's fighting-type chakra could shatter a falling rock, and why Rockruff's lightning-coated bite was effective. These original elemental interactions appear to apply only in Pokemon versus Pokemon battles. In fights against native Naruto ninjas and beasts, only the Naruto chakra nature interactions hold. Mu Yue decided this wouldn't drastically change training. Elemental advantages matter, but training and tactics matter more. Rockruff approached Riolu carefully. Its falling rock trick had limited range, so it needed to close in. Riolu propped itself up and watched warily. The crowd leaned in. The battle had reached its final phase. Rockruff turned earth into sand and flung it toward the immobile Riolu, a cheaper, less chakra-consuming disruption than another boulder. Riolu's eyes were hit again. Flash! Rockruff used its last reserves to charge Riolu and knocked it down. Just as Obito and Shisui thought the match was over, Riolu, battered and in terrible shape, still hadn't given up. It swung its metal-tinged claw at Rockruff, but the strike stopped 3 centimeters short and slammed into the ground. Reacting quickly, Rockruff formed a small rock and cracked Riolu on the head, fully incapacitating it. Shisui shook his head in regret. If Riolu's arm had been longer, it might have turned the tide. Losing mobility is fatal. Rin and Mu Yue tended to one Pokemon each, while Kakashi and Metkai hurried over to check on theirs. What youthful passion! Metkai wept for Riolu. He didn't mind the loss. Riolu nearly came back twice and never gave up. In Metkai's eyes, a fighter like that would win in the end, just as he himself had overcome Kakashi through sheer effort. Riolu, feeling his sincere emotion, even managed a small smile. "You did perfectly. You surprised even me," Kakashi told Rockru, ruffling its head. Rockruff had shown real intelligence. Kakashi had taught not only training methods, but tactics too. Rockruff's spinning sand splash had been his idea. Rockruff barked happily at the praise. The pain of the fight vanished in that moment. Watching Kakashi and Metkai so in sync with their nin beasts, Obito glanced at Charmeleon and thought, why did his side feel like a different style? Whose problem was that? Anyway, Charmeleon should still have the advantage, Obito recalled from his previous power tests. He had faith Charmeleon could win. Once Rockruff had fully recovered, the final battle was ready to begin. Even though you have an evolutionary advantage, Rockruff is cunning. Be extra careful in this match, Obito warned Charmeleon. It was true Charmeleon had evolved first, but he was still younger than Rockruff. Rockruff had trained longer, mastering his own techniques and even learning Kakashi's lightning-release chakra nature transformation. Charizard! Charmeleon crossed his arms and exhaled a hot breath from his nostrils, trying to look like a great general. Zorua translated, "He will win." Obito's face darkened. The posture, the fury, it gave him a strange sense of déjà vu. Metkai? Kakashi will now announce, Charmeleon versus Rockruff, the referee Kakashi called. The two nin beasts walked onto the field. Each could see the other's hunger for victory in their eyes. If I lose to an unevolved Rockruff, that evil Obito will mercilessly mock me. Charmeleon thought, claws tightening. Kakashi put so much effort into my training, and I was born first. I absolutely cannot lose. Rockruff's gaze was equally determined. Begin. At Kakashi's command, both sprang into motion. Shadow Clone. Rockruff used chakra to create 5 perfect shadow clones as they ran. They switched positions constantly, making it nearly impossible to tell which was the original. Charmeleon had planned to start with Smokescreen to blind his opponent, but Rockruff's clones gave him pause. If he couldn't tell the real one, would Smokescreen even help? Flash! Before Charmeleon could decide, Rockruff burst forward with chakra and slammed into him. Charmeleon was knocked to the ground. Rock throw! Chakra condensed above Charmeleon into a 1-meter-tall boulder. Charmeleon rolled just in time to avoid it, but a gust of fine sand hit his face. He remembered Riolu's earlier match. Sand in the eyes was unbearable. Tears streamed, vision blurred. Obito stared in disbelief. Charmeleon, an evolved fighter, seemed helpless in the opening exchange. You inherently evil white-furred puppy, you truly are ruthless. Obito wanted to forbid the sand technique. That ninjutsu felt dirty, like throwing lime in someone's eyes mid-battle. Kakashi, however, remained calm. Winning mattered most, and this was exactly the tactic he'd taught Rockruff. Charmeleon, worried Rockruff would follow up, spat out a wall of flame. But Rockruff had anticipated that and used Flash to move out of range. Woof! Rockruff howled, concentrating chakra to boost his intensity. He used Shadow Clone again and charged, planning to repeat the same trick. Charizard! This time, Charmeleon didn't hesitate. If he couldn't find the true Rockruff, he'd strike blind. He gathered chakra and breathed out a powerful jet of flame. 2 of the leading Rockruff clones were instantly consumed. Rock! Rockruff quickly performed a nature transformation, raising a small earth release, earth flow wall from the ground to shield himself. On all fours and unable to form complex hand signs, he could only make a modest wall, but it was enough to block the worst of the dragon breath. Dirt crumbled from it, however. Charmeleon, still blinded and furious, charged and drove a claw into the damaged wall. With a resounding crash, his strike shattered it. Without pausing, he vomited another torrent of flame, convinced Rockruff couldn't have anticipated such raw power. The shadow clones behind the wall were caught in the blast. Charmeleon smiled, tasting victory. Obito covered his face. If an Earth Release user disappears from sight, consider the possibility they burrowed underground to flank you. Then something Charmeleon hadn't expected happened. Every Rockruff hit by his flames turned into smoke and dissipated. None remained. Charmeleon froze. Had he killed them? He only wanted to win. A shadow flickered before him. Charmeleon looked up instinctively. A boulder had formed in the sky. A sudden shove knocked him off balance, and the rock fell, striking and pinning him to the ground. Rock! Rockruff raised his head, proud, and glanced at Kakashi. Kakashi gave a slight nod. Rockruff had executed what Kakashi had taught perfectly. Charmeleon had been forced into Rockruff's tempo and couldn't unleash his full strength. Now, pinned under the rock, he looked as if he were broken. Charmeleon clearly evolved first. Why is his body weaker than Riolu's? Obito muttered. Riolu, even when hindered, had shattered Rockruff's boulder with a single punch. Charmeleon, by comparison, seemed defeated after one hit. Obito felt sympathy. Losing despite having an evolutionary edge was humiliating. He knew that feeling well. The urge to comfort Charmeleon flared. I'll buy him something nice later. Charmeleon inwardly roared, I absolutely cannot fall. I cannot be underestimated by Obito. The flame on Charmeleon's tail suddenly flared, doubling in size. Power surged through him. Rockruff moved in for the finish, but he was a half-step slow. With a roar, Charmeleon pushed the boulder aside, leapt up, and unleashed a massive plume of orange-red fire. Obito watched, surprised. Charmeleon could still burst with overwhelming power even after being severely struck, just like Kakashi. Did he actually win? Obito wondered aloud, already picturing what to buy the valiant loser. Yet Rockruff, singed, charged through the inferno and knocked Charmeleon down. Obito blinked. Had Rockruff been hiding strength earlier? Why had he been a meek pup against Riolu but become an iron dog now? Kakashi, too, was caught off guard. Rockruff had withstood Charmeleon's flames and tackled him. Then Rockruff condensed chakra and bit Charmeleon, fully incapacitating him. Charmeleon is unable to battle. Rockruff wins. Kakashi observed Charmeleon's condition a moment before declaring the victor. Rin Nohara tended to Rockruff's light injuries, while Mu Yue treated Charmeleon. You're amazing, Kakashi. You're really good at training 9 beasts, Rin praised as she groomed Rockruff. Kakashi shrugged while brushing Rockruff's fur. He worked hard too, he said. If all the credit went to him, it wouldn't be fair. He wasn't sure he could train every nin beast to Rockruff's level. Rockruff stuck out his tongue and licked Kakashi's palm contentedly. Charmeleon kept his eyes tightly shut, feigning unconsciousness. He was awake, but if he played dead, Obito might go easy on him, right? Mu Yue-sensei. Obito walked over and peered at Charmeleon as Mu Yue treated him. Charmeleon flinched inwardly at the tone, but kept his face calm. Is Charmeleon okay? He seems a bit frail compared to Riolu, Obito asked curiously. Was this genuine concern or mockery? It's not that Charmeleon's body is weak, Mu Yue explained, but his chakra was countered, making it hard for him to withstand Rockruff's attacks. Charmeleon versus Rockruff had been a direct counter. Charmeleon only had 2 effective attack types now, fire and normal moves, which, like in the games, are at a disadvantage against Rock. Reality wasn't strictly game-like, but when raw strength differences were small, the elemental disadvantage showed. Obito blinked. He knew chakra natures had counters, but chakra itself? Mu Yue continued. Everyone's chakra has subtle differences. Some chakras have unique properties. All of your nin beasts possess special chakras. So Charmeleon can't handle Earth Release? Obito asked. Mu Yue shook his head. The true problem wasn't Earth release, it was Rockruff's personal localized chakra. That special chakra countered Charmeleon. Obito exhaled. As long as it wasn't Earth release generally, he could accept it. Then doubt flickered through him. If Rockruff countered Charmeleon, would Charmeleon always be inferior to Rockruff? Is Rockruff's chakra countered by Riolu? Kakashi asked, thinking back to Riolu's bout. Mu Yue nodded. Riolu's fighting and steel-type attributes could counter Rockruff's rock-type. Where do these nin beasts like Rockruff come from? Kakashi asked, fascinated. If every special chakra had its own special effects, and all their nin beasts had such chakras, what exactly were they? Who does Charmeleon counter? Obito asked next. If Rockruff, who countered Charmeleon, was itself countered by Riolu, surely Charmeleon had someone he could counter. Not at the moment, Mu Yue said. Charmeleon could eventually counter Lucario. If he evolved to Charizard and Riolu became Lucario, Flames might beat Lucario. But the young Charmeleon really had no natural counters in his current form. Obito, how come everyone else has a counter, but Charmeleon is just getting countered? Still, at least Charmeleon had a fire release. That's ordinary, better than being weird. Charmeleon felt a chill. What was wrong with the world? Why was it so unfriendly to dragons? He's been through a lot. Feed him more and let him train. He'll get stronger, Obito sighed, oddly sympathetic. Charmeleon blinked, stunned. Could the infamously evil Obito actually sound so human? He wondered if he was dreaming. Maybe he should mend his ways and get along with Obito. Translator, I won't join tonight's prank on Obito, Charmeleon told Zoroa with its eyes, offering an apologetic look. Obito smiled and added, training without eating isn't good. Eating and training more will make you stronger. Charmeleon felt numb. Of course, Obito had ulterior motives. Feed him, then use the Sharingan to hypnotize him to train harder. The thought made Charmeleon both guilty and plotting a punch. Contractor? A contractor is a hammer. You have to hit inherently evil Uchiha brats with a heavy punch. Meanwhile, far away in the land of rain, the Six-Path City was under construction. Kitsuchi had come to probe the Shinobi sect's willingness to follow Onoki's orders. As liaison for Iwagakure's cooperation with the Rain Ninja and a participant in the unrestricted lectures, Kitsuchi had a favorable reputation with the Shinobi sect. He quickly met with the sect leaders. The Shinobi sect should be taking commissions now, right? Kitsuchi asked. That depends on the mission and the fee, Kakuzu replied. The sect prioritized funding for Six-Path City and pacifying the eastern region. Though Kitsuchi's group made a good impression, Kakuzu suspected Iwagakure had motives. He wouldn't cut corners. Everything would go through official channels. Iwagakure wants to commission the Shinobi sect, or more specifically, the sect leader, to train some of our ninja, Kitsuchi announced. Kakuzu's eyes widened. A mission that specifically requested the sect leader? With Ninja Master Sosuke's present prestige, such a mission would be costly. He inwardly labeled Kitsuchi a walking ATM, but kept his face neutral. Kitsuchi quickly apologized for the imposition. Fortunately, Onoki had anticipated this, and the Iwagakure Jonin behind Kitsuchi stepped forward. Lord Kitsuchi means that I will negotiate with you directly from now on. Kakuzu glanced at Kitsuchi, who nodded. The Iwagakure Jonin continued. Iwagakure sincerely seeks cooperation. Considering your difficulties, if the Shinobi sect agrees, Iwagakure will help establish a base. Kakuzu considered the offer. The message was clear. They weren't short on funds. If the sect cooperated, anything could be discussed. Still, Kakuzu distrusted promises without guarantees. I need to consult our leader, Kakuzu said. He would discuss it with Mu Yue. He couldn't accept a commission for the sect solo. Helping with training is fine, but Iwagakure must cover all expenses. You set the training fees, Mu Yue decided. The sect was short-handed. Having Iwagakure trainees help with construction and contribute Earth release specialists would be practical. Mu Yue wouldn't teach them any secret techniques. At most, he'd give them a solid foundational class. After answering Kakuzu, Mu Yue turned back to planning the youth martial arts tournament. The first prize was already a strong hook. Fire Dragon Dance, Ninja Master Sosuke's famed fire release. But second through fourth prizes also needed to be appealing. Not everyone could win first. Mu Yue considered his options. He had developed a super water release, super exploding water shockwave. Boo, T, because he'd used it himself. He couldn't offer it and risk revealing his alias. Instead, for second place, he wrote Custom Ninjutsu Development, a tailor-made jutsu crafted by the ninja master. That would attract competitors. For a man like Mu Yue, designing jutsu wasn't hard. The real challenge was creating something truly powerful, a jutsu that required inspiration as much as technique. Third place would receive Ninja Master's handwritten cultivation notes, and fourth place, a chakra blade worth 10 million ryo. Mu Yue planned to use ore he had obtained in the snow country to forge the blade. Once he finalized the top 4 prizes, Mu Yue released the news. He didn't even have to push it hard. The groundwork from the unrestricted lectures and the attractive prizes made the youth martial arts tournament instant front-page news across the ninja world. The Lord Daimyo of Fire Country even heard about it and asked his ninja about the prizes. The Fire Dragon Dance is reputed the strongest fire release in the ninja world. Every fire user wants to see it, one guard said. Ninja Master Sosuke is proficient in 7 chakra natures. If he personally develops a jutsu, it's sure to be excellent, another added. Master Mu Yue is a pinnacle of the ninja world. His cultivation notes are priceless. 10 million ryo may not mean much to you, my lord, but it's enough to fund 10 S-rank missions in Konoha, another guard reported. Hearing the strongest fire release, the daimyo grew interested. He loved watching powerful ninja spar. The spectacle of ninjutsu clashing was one of his few pleasures. Contact the Hokage of Konoha. See if any Konoha ninja will enter. I want to watch. Hiruzen Sarutobi reviewed Konoha's under-18 roster and found Mu Yue's disciples impressively strong. Kakashi, Obito, and Metkai were only 11. Shisui was 9. Together, they formed the strongest youth group in Konoha. Hiruzen wondered what might have been 3 years ago. Minato Namikaze and Mu Yue at their primes could have dominated the tournament. He, too, was intrigued by Fire Dragon Dance, and with the daimyo's curiosity, Hiruzen didn't mind sending some young talent. He asked Mu Yue to check Obito and the others' interest. Obito read the tournament scroll and immediately asked, "How many will join? What are the prizes?" Obito loved competitions. So long as he had a decent rank, Rin was nearby, or the prizes were worth it. Mu Yue handed him the scroll. The first prize is a powerful fire release, Fire Dragon Dance, Kakashi said before Obito finished reading. Kakashi kept up with current affairs and knew about the tournament. Obito's expression changed. "How strong is very strong?" he pressed. He desperately wanted a powerful fire release. His current fire techniques were fine for common fights, but not for internal power struggles. "I haven't seen it, but many consider it the strongest fire release," Kakashi replied, glancing at Mu Yue. Kakashi thought Mu Yue's own fire arts were very strong, possibly comparable to Sosuke's. "Mu Yue-sensei, do you know Fire Dragon Dance?" Obito asked the omniscient teacher. "It's certainly very powerful," Mu Yue allowed, but cautioned that even if Obito won it, he might not yet be able to use it. If Obito could, Mu Yue would have taught him. At worst, the first prize could be swapped for another jutsu. Hearing Mu Yue endorse it, Obito's mind was made up. He had to enter. This was strength acknowledged by Mu Yue himself. "What, it's limited to under 18? This is tailor-made for us." Obito's eyes sparkled. Metkai peeked in and scratched his head. He didn't practice ninjutsu, so the top prizes were useless to him. Cultivation notes? He had no need. The 10 million ryo blade, though, that could fetch a good price. "I think we should all enter together. If a prize doesn't suit you, we can swap," Shisui suggested. Right now, Metkai was the favorite. If he entered, first place seemed guaranteed. "Shisui makes sense," Obito agreed. He didn't expect anyone underage in the ninja world to be stronger than Metkai. So if Metkai took first, the coveted fire release would fall into their circle. No text for this chapter. Let's proceed to the next chapter. 518. A Noteworthy Strong Person. Once all the facilities for the martial arts tournament were ready, Mu Yue announced Hanzo's attendance and released the details for the youth martial arts tournament. The event had gone through several rounds of promotion, and those who wanted to watch or take part had been waiting for the announcement. News of the tournament spread like wildfire. People eager to compete or spectate flocked to the land of rain. Back in Konoha, besides the prodigies Hiruzen Sarutobi had personally kept an eye on, a number of young shinobi decided to enter the tournament to broaden their experience. The registration fee was only 68,900 long, a small price for a shinobi. Even without winning a prize, the chance to see the legendary ninja master Sosuke was worth it. Thinking that leading one team was nearly the same as leading two, Hiruzen gathered the eager youngsters and had Mu Yue escort them to the land of rain. "Your ranks are climbing fast. Shisui's already a jonin," Asuma muttered, still a chuunin himself. He'd graduated when Shisui enrolled, yet Shisui had already been promoted. The speed of that rise was maddening. "Heh, want to know our secret?" Obito chuckled, and Asuma, Kurenai, and Raido leaned in. "Defeat a 7 ninja swordsman of the mist, then complete a few S-rank missions. That's all," Obito said breezily. Asuma's team fell silent. If they actually ran into one of the 7 ninja swordsmen and survived, they'd be lucky to walk away. Besides, the Hidden Mist didn't currently have a full 7 swordsmen, only 2 remained. The mist showed no signs of making peace, so Konoha hadn't returned the captured swords. They'd been sealed to prevent the mist from reclaiming them by special means. Without swords, there was no way to form new members, so the mist might remain short-handed for a long time, unless they forged replacements. "That's a useful secret, but it sounds exhausting." Asuma ruffled Obito's back. "With you lot entering, Konoha might sweep the prizes. I wonder how the shinobi sect will take that." Asuma knew how monstrous Obito and the others were. He'd trained hard, but the gap had only widened. In special training, Obito had been only slightly better. By the chuunin exams, Obito could already overwhelm him. Asuma had also seen Obito assist Kakashi in defeating Suikazan Fuguki during the 7 ninja swordsman encounter, proof enough of his power. "As long as we don't get unlucky and run into our own people, we'll definitely be at the top," Obito said with confidence born of battlefield experience. "Don't underestimate the other shinobi," Kakashi reminded him. "The youth martial arts tournament bars anyone over 18. It's not a competition for 12 or 11-year-olds. Kakashi wasn't arrogant, but neither was he self-deprecating. He admitted he was a prodigy, but he knew he couldn't simply beat everyone. Many opponents had years more training than he did. "Got any intel?" Obito asked. He'd taken the age factor into account and wasn't making definitive claims about sweeping the podium. "A little, but not much," Kakashi answered. "Few shinobi become famous by 18. Names like Minato Namikaze had already passed that age." Obito grumbled at Kakashi's half-answers. He hated Kakashi's casual air, especially around Rin, but Kakashi only chuckled. Because the shinobi sect's base wasn't far from Konoha, Mu Yue left later that day. By the time his group reached Six Path City, the place was buzzing. The streets were full of shinobi, their forehead protectors displaying all sorts of designs. Everyone here had their purpose. Fools who caused trouble were quickly handled by the shinobi sect, so the city felt orderly. So many people, and even shinobi from enemy villages. Obito marveled. It was his first time seeing so many different village emblems in one place. The shinobi forces were especially impressive en masse, though they all wore the same headbands. It was a different kind of spectacle. "It shows the shinobi sect's clout," Kakashi observed. Given the current tense state of the shinobi world, getting so many villages to coexist peacefully, even briefly, wasn't easy. Small clashes could still happen, but in general, things stayed civil. After settling in, Kakashi and his companions registered. The sect staff organized it well, and they found the tournament registration area without trouble, though they hardly needed guidance. Crowds thronged the place, contestants, escorts, and curious observers. "Might be Kisame Hoshigaki from the Mist," Metkai said, spotting a familiar face. Kisame had cornered Kakashi and his team during the Forest of Death in the chuunin exams, so Guy remembered him. Kakashi had to think for a moment to place the name, surprised at Guy's certainty. "Kisame, right? I recall exchanging a few words with him in the 3rd exam," Guy added, confident enough to make Kakashi doubt his own memory. "The Hidden Mist came to compete too. We'll beat them again, like on the battlefield," Obito said, remembering their previous encounter. At that moment, Kakashi, who'd activated Transparent World, felt a surprisingly strong chakra nearby, one he didn't recognize. He shifted slightly and deactivated Transparent World. The source had no forehead protector. "No headband? Someone from a non-village?" Kakashi wondered. Strong chakra outside the established circuits of the shinobi world was rare, and under 18, even rarer. A voice called out as they arrived. Lightning Fang Kakashi, Green Beast Might Guy, Shisui the Body Flicker, Konoha's geniuses are here. The name-calling brought Meiterumi and Hotsuki Mangetsu's group to look back. Kakashi's group had a growing reputation in the surrounding lands, though Obito felt slighted at being overlooked. Mei's expression tightened. They're here. The pressure is on. Aside from Obito, Mei thought she could handle some of them, but Kakashi, Guy, and Shisui were beyond her. Hotsuki Mangetsu stared at Might Guy, still smarting from the beating Guy had given him at the chuunin exams. He regarded Obito's group as worthy opponents, the kind who could have been mist swordsmen if the mist still had blades. Nearby, someone recognized Maki from Sunagakure, and smaller village shinobi drew back, overwhelmed at the presence of so many top-tier fighters. A few had come thinking wartime might thin the competition and they could take advantage, but seeing the assembled talent, they opted to stay and watch instead. On June 25th, the Youth Martial Arts Tournament began its preliminary rounds. The preliminaries were closed to spectators. For the crowd, the elimination rounds were where the real contest started. With over 200 participants, Mu Yue split the entrance evenly into 8 sections. Each section would winnow its contestants round by round until only 4 remained to enter the elimination rounds. After the draw, Obito and the others checked their placements. "I'm number 1 in Section 2, Obito said, holding up his slip. "Number 15 in Section 8, Might Guy announced with a grin. The others breathed easier. Being in different sections reduced the chance of meeting each other in early matches. "I'm number 1 in Section 1, Kakashi added. "Number 10 in Section 5, Shisui said. "I'm in Section 4, Rin said, smiling. Being separated was deliberate. Mu Yue had arranged the sections to keep the strongest competitors apart, preventing geniuses from eliminating one another too early and ensuring exciting elimination rounds. "Kakashi, Obito, you two head to Section 2. You're both in the first match," Rin reminded them. Matches in all sections ran simultaneously, so timing was crucial. "Rin, you do your best. I'll cheer when you fight," Obito said before leaving. "Don't underestimate your opponent. Give it your all, even if someone seems weaker," Rin replied seriously, "and pick up information on other shinobi afterwards." Kakashi hurried to the first district. Because he arrived quickly, his match started almost immediately. First round, competitor number 1, Kakashi Hatake, versus competitor number 2, Daizo Ue, Oka, the referee called. Kakashi appeared on the field using the body flicker technique. Daizo went pale at the sight of Kakashi. The Lightning Fang's reputation preceded him, and it took a second call from the referee to get him moving. "Begin," the referee shouted. Daizo threw shuriken in a frantic flurry. Kakashi, sword in hand, casually sliced them aside, and then focused his breathing and chakra, accelerating. Before Daizo could recover, Kakashi's white fang short sword was at his throat. "The difference is that great," Daizo whispered, stunned. He'd hoped to last at least a few exchanges. The referee declared the match over. "Number 1, Kakashi Hatake, wins." Kakashi sheathed his sword and left the arena. He entered Transparent World to scan the first district, looking for notable shinobi, found none, and headed toward the second district. "Number 1, Uchiha Obito wins." Kakashi heard as he arrived. The second district's match had finished. Obito left the ring in high spirits and saw Kakashi approach. Obito's smile dimmed. He'd wanted to be the one to go cheer Kakashi on, but Kakashi had been even faster. "I'm going to check the 3rd, 6th, and 7th districts." "You coming?" Kakashi asked. Those districts had no Mu Yue disciples and were worth scouting for strong opponents. "No, I'm heading to the 4th, Obito said. Kakashi decided he'd have to cover the 2nd district himself from time to time. Obito didn't seem interested in gathering intel. In the 3rd district, Kakashi watched Hotsuki Mangetsu fight. Mangetsu's chakra was no joke. As the referee shouted "begin," an Iwagakure shinobi charged with a long sword, aiming to impale Mangetsu. Mangetsu didn't flinch. The sword pierced his body. Then the attacker watched, stunned, as Mangetsu's flesh flowed away and reformed. He had turned into a living body of water. "What? He turned into water?" The Iwagakure fighter gasped, then went to strike again. Mangetsu formed a pistol shape with his hand. "Water pistol," he called. A liquid shot out like a bullet, knocking the attacker across the ring. "Hotsuki Mangetsu wins." After the match, Mangetsu noticed Kakashi. With his pale hair and build, he stood out in the tournament. "You're Young Muye's disciple?" Mangetsu asked. "That's right," Kakashi answered easily. Being Mu Yue's student was a point of pride. "So I wasn't mistaken. Don't lose before the elimination rounds, Kakashi Hatake," Mangetsu said with a provocative smile. Kakashi stayed calm. The Mist had reason to dislike Konoha. One of their Jinchuriki had been eliminated previously, so Mangetsu's attitude wasn't surprising. Then Mangetsu added quietly, "Hozuki Mangetsu is my uncle. We didn't meet often, but he is my blood." Kakashi blinked. The remark was oddly personal, but he said nothing and headed off to the 6th district. When he reached the 6th district, the second match of the first round was underway. Competitor 3, Sand Crab, versus Competitor 4, Hisashi Uda. Kakashi had noticed Sand Crab earlier with Transparent World. The shinobi's chakra was unusually strong. When the match began, Hisashi drew his sword and rushed in. Sand Crab calmly pulled out a kunai and effortlessly countered, kicking Hisashi down. As Hisashi tried to rise, he suddenly realized his body wasn't obeying him. He stabbed his own abdomen. "What's happening?" Hisashi cried, bewildered. Spectators were shocked too. Why would he harm himself? The referee, fearing serious injury, stopped the match. "Sand Crab wins," he announced. As soon as the referee called it, Hisashi felt control return and covered his wound. In Transparent World, Kakashi saw several thin chakra threads attached to Hisashi's body. Puppet strings. Was Sand Crab a puppet master? Powerful puppet users could manipulate others with threads, but Sand Crab wore no Sunagakure forehead protector. The tournament drew competitors from every corner, and winning could bring honor to a village, so it was odd to see such a technique without a village emblem. Kakashi made a note to return after the Econ round. If he moved quickly through his own matches, he should reach the 6th district in time to watch Sand Crab again. The 7th district gave Kakashi the strongest jolt. When he activated Transparent World, Nagato's chakra hit him like a tidal wave. He'd sensed powerful chakra before, but nothing like this. Apart from Jinchuriki, Kakashi had never felt such an abnormal, massive reserve. "It's a member of the Akatsuki," someone murmured nearby. The name stirred memories. Kakashi had heard of the Akatsuki, an organization that hunted tailed beasts. Yet their presence here didn't match the terrifying rumors, at least from what his limited reconnaissance had found in the Land of Rain. Number 19, Nagato, versus number 20, Kurosawa, the referee announced. Kurosawa, a mist shinobi Kakashi vaguely remembered from the chuunin exams, began with a thick water mist enveloping the arena. Nagato, serene, formed hand signs and expelled a concentrated wind sphere. Wind release, pressure damage. The wind sphere hit and exploded into a furious storm. Kurosawa's mist was blown away. The pressure wave cracked the ground and slammed the mist shinobi backward. He vomited blood and fell. Kakashi frowned. They'd all been strong in the chuunin exams, but why did they seem to fall so quickly now? He evaluated Nagato's technique. The ninjutsu was powerful, but not beyond what elite shinobi like Obito, Shisui, or even Kakashi himself could perform in their specialized states. It was Nagato's chakra that made him stand out. Huge, abnormal reserves that turned even simple techniques into devastating attacks. "I'll come back for the second round," Kakashi decided. Today he'd stay focused on the 6th and 7th districts. Sand Crab's puppetry and Nagato's prodigious chakra both deserved closer study. He moved off to gather more information, aware that the preliminaries were only the beginning. The tournament would reveal who truly stood out among the next generation of shinobi. Chapter 519, The Terrifyingly Powerful Nagato. Please vote for me. After Nagato's match ended, Kakashi returned to the first arena to wait for the second round and to keep observing the other competitors. He'd arrived late, so the first round was already halfway done. Kakashi only saw a few fights before the second round was about to begin. He remained unruffled. From what he'd seen moving between arenas, the average level at the Youth Martial Arts Tournament was roughly chuunin. Even Rin Nohara, so long as she didn't run into someone like Nagato, could easily make it through the preliminaries. This is a lot easier than I thought, Kakashi reflected. In his expectations, the tournament would be fierce, packed with young prodigies from the 5 great shinobi villages. In reality, Representatives from those villages were a minority among the more than 200 participants. Konoha had 18 entrants. Kakashi had only seen Meiterami's team from the Hidden Mist, 6 mist shinobi in total. There was a single team from Tsunagakure, 4 from the Sand. Iwagakure was relatively well represented, maybe 21 fighters, the largest contingent. Kumogakure had the fewest. Kakashi had only seen 3 cloud shinobi in the city. Kakashi thought 2 things explained it. First, the war was on. The great villages couldn't spare many young geniuses. Second, the attractiveness of the prizes varied by village. Even if Fire Dragon Dance was the strongest known fire technique, many villages didn't value fire jutsu. Hidden Mist, for example, had few fire users, and even fewer who could learn something like Fire Dragon Dance. So the Mist had little reason to send competitors. Kakashi guessed they sent a few on the principle of, if we can't use it, we won't let others take it either. If Killer Bee were here, Guy'd have his hands full, Kakashi mused. Bee had been famous since youth. Kakashi had encountered the new AB combo on missions and had some idea of Bee's reputation. Second round, first match. Number 1, Kakashi Hatake versus number 3, Yuji Komiyama. When the referee called his match, Kakashi put his thoughts aside and stepped into the ring. Yuji Komiyama walked up resignedly. Given Kakashi's earlier performance, his chances were 0. Start! Flash! At the referee's signal, Kakashi centered his breathing, drew his white fang short sword, and struck like lightning. Yuji only registered a dazzling flash before the blade was at his throat. He barely had time to pull a kunai out. The match was over in an instant. This win was different from Kakashi's first match ending. There had been no suspense this time. The top-ranked contestants watched with sinking hearts. How could they compete? It felt like a foregone conclusion. Kakashi didn't linger. He immediately hurried to the 6th arena. He'd finished fast because he didn't want to miss Sandcrab's match. Sandcrab was number 3, which put him in the first bout of the second round. Fortunately, the 6th arena's pace was slower. When Kakashi arrived, the second round hadn't started. The last first-round match was still underway. He waited quietly. Nagato's match was later, so there was no rush. Number 1 Shuzo versus number 3 Sandcrab. Kakashi saw Shuzo's grass village forehead protector and felt a twinge of disappointment. Small villages had capable fighters, but too few of them. Sandcrab, he feared, wouldn't show much of his repertoire this time. As Kakashi predicted, Sandcrab won using Taijutsu alone. He didn't even use his chakra thread technique. Second round, second match. Number 5 Zabuza Momochi versus... When Kakashi heard Zabuza's name, he looked up. If the Hidden Mist ninja, across from Sandcrab, had a chance to show anything, it would be in Zabuza's match. From the strength Zabuza had shown before, as long as the man hadn't grown complacent, he shouldn't be wiped out by Sandcrab's taijutsu like the grass village shinobi had been. Zabuza caught Kakashi's gaze and with a crooked pride asked, "You came just to watch me fight?" Eye blades sharper now than it was before. Kakashi remembered the power Zabuza had used in the chuunin exams 2 years ago. The blade he had wielded to protect a friend had left an impression. Zabuza hadn't found anyone worth that kind of sacrifice since, and he'd trained hard in the intervening years. He hoped he could at least make Kakashi taste the thrill of battle. Because there was still time before Nagato's match, Kakashi detoured to the 4th arena to check on Rin. Before he reached it, he heard Obito cheering. He watched for a while. Rin's opponent was a run-of-the-mill chuunin, and Rin beat them easily with ordinary taijutsu. Kakashi wasn't surprised. Though her primary focus was medical ninjutsu, Rin's overall ability was that of a true Konoha jonin, impressive so long as she wasn't being compared directly to Kakashi and the others. After greeting Obito and Rin, Kakashi went to the 5th arena where Shisui's match had just ended. Shisui was walking off the ring as Kakashi approached. They exchanged greetings. Kakashi asked, "Shisui, did you find anyone in the 5th arena we should watch?" Shisui, who'd been noting outstanding fighters, answered, "There's an Iwagakure shinobi named Iwagaki. He's not weak, he has an explosion-release Kekkei Genkai, but his number's very late, so we won't meet him in the preliminaries." "I suspect the match numbering isn't entirely random," Shisui added. "They're probably trying to avoid pairing strong opponents before the elimination rounds. I checked nearby arenas. Fights either ended in a complete rout or were between equally weak opponents. Kakashi agreed. He shared the information he'd gathered, and the two of them noted that the organizers seemed to possess a decent intelligence network. Knowing the strengths of young competitors across countries required scouts and records. Many geniuses didn't have widespread reputations yet. Feeling that Nagato's match time was approaching, Kakashi went to the 7th arena to watch. Second round, 5th match. Number 17 Raito Namiyashi versus number 19 Nagato. Kakashi allowed himself a brief sigh for Raito Namiyashi. He didn't expect Raito to win. It was only a question of how much information he could squeeze from the fight. Raito stepped into the arena with a serious look. "He's strong," he said, taking a breath. Kakashi called encouragement, and Raito, surprised to hear him, replied, "Since you came to cheer, Kakashi, I can't disappoint." The match started. Raito fell back, formed hand seals, and created 2 shadow clones. They advanced in perfect sync, trying to split Nagato's attention and open a path for the real Raito to attack. Nagato also formed a shadow clone. Both his main body and clone made hand seals with expressionless faces. Fire release, compressed flame. Nagato's main form spat a concentrated fireball into the center of the arena. On impact, it burst into a sea of flames. Wind release, high-pressure gust. The shadow clone sent out a compressed wind sphere. When the wind struck the flames, it turned the blaze into a massive storm. The wind feeding the fire made its intensity terrifying. Raito's 2 clones were swallowed instantly. Raito's eyes widened. His hand nearly slipped off his long sword. What a cruel matchup. "Referee, I forfeit," he said decisively, surrendering before the firestorm could reach him. If he'd managed to close the distance, he might have had a chance, but he couldn't get close fast enough before Nagato's ninjutsu was unleashed. "Nagato wins," the referee announced. Kakashi silently updated his assessment. Nagato could use fire as well as wind, and he could combine releases. That made him more dangerous than Kakashi had already thought. Kakashi stayed in the 7th arena until the 2nd round was almost finished, then went back to the 1st. He kept knocking out opponents quickly, and then hurried to the 6th arena to watch Sandcrab. Nagato had shown him some new tricks, but Sandcrab remained an enigma. Except for his chakra thread technique, he'd used most Taijutsu so far. Zabuza noticed Kakashi's return and walked toward the ring with a puffed chest. "Battle start! Hidden mist technique." Zabuza unleashed his chakra and exhaled thick, obscuring mist. He'd watched Sandcrab's fights and knew the opponent was dangerous. Zabuza went all out immediately. Kakashi frowned. The hidden mist technique was a secret of the mist village with a high ceiling. Not even Obito's Sharingan or his transparent world can see through it, he thought. From outside the mist, he could only judge the fight by sounds. Minutes ticked by. The mist didn't lift. Was Sandcrab unable to counter it, or wasn't it a problem for him? Another minute. The sounds of intense combat rang out. Gradually the fog dissipated, revealing a fallen Zabuza and Sandcrab unscathed. Kakashi felt helpless. Gathering solid intelligence was hard. He'd watched 3 matches and still had little useful data. Only the confirmation that Sandcrab was strong. He kept watching, hoping the 4th match would yield more. The 4th round, the last preliminary round, was where the survivors would be less weak. Based on numbering, Sandcrab's final opponent would be an Iwagakure fighter who probably wouldn't start a fight by cloaking the arena in mist. Nagato's 3rd round opponent was average, and again fell instantly to Nagato's wind and fire combination. Kakashi learned nothing new. After the 3rd round, the preliminaries paused, a 3-hour intermission before the final round. Kakashi and the others used the break to eat and share notes. Kakashi reported all he'd learned, then listened. "So there are other Akatsuki members competing. I saw Yahiko in my arena," Obito said. "He seemed to use water release. I only saw 1 match, so I'm not sure." Kakashi had assumed Obito spent all his time watching Rin, but Obito had been collecting a little intel of his own. Rin and Shisui filled in their arena details. Metkai, stroking his chin, declared, "I don't see anyone in my arena worth noting." Guy was convinced none could withstand his golden skyline. If Obito had said that, Kakashi might have thought he was bragging. When Guy said it, there was no doubt. When the 4th round began, Sandcrab was again in the 1st match. To avoid missing anything important, Kakashi made a shadow clone to go to the 6th arena, while his real body stayed in the first arena to fight. End of chapter. Sand Crab versus Stone Bear. Shadow clone Kakashi Hake watched the arena with intense focus. This was the final round of the preliminaries. After a day off, the elimination matches would begin. Sand Crab walked into the ring with the same indifferent face he always wore, showing no sign of nervousness. Stone Bear, by contrast, looked like he was facing an opponent he respected. Sand Crab didn't open with flashy, large-scale ninjutsu like Nagato, but his casual way of handling opponents always put Stone Bear on edge. Earth Release, Rock Iron Cannon Technique. Stone Bear formed hand signs and spat out stones that grew as they flew, turning into cannonball-like projectiles. It was an Iwagakure military jutsu, devastating when used by Iwagakure forces, and still a solid offensive technique in a one-on-one. Sand Crab kept his indifferent expression, sidestepping the barrage while producing a scroll. In the next moment, a hunched old man with an iron barb, like a scorpion's tail on his back, appeared in the arena and charged at Stone Bear. Puppet Master, Kakashi thought, narrowing his eye. That was clearly a puppet technique, one of the puppetjutsu techniques developed by the second Kazekage. Could Sand Crab be a rogue sand ninja? Kakashi wondered. Puppet jutsu weren't exclusive to Sunagakure anymore, but non-sand puppeteers rarely rose to prominence, at least none Kakashi had heard of. The skill Sand Crab displayed was exceptional. Just one puppet and he'd quickly suppressed Stone Bear. Even an outsider could tell he had a high level of control. For a puppeteer under 18, Kakashi found it hard to believe the skill was self-taught. Puppet jutsu had a relatively short history. A strong teacher mattered. Without concrete proof, Kakashi couldn't report him, only file him away for more attention. Under Sand Crab's expertly controlled puppet, Stone Bear was quickly overwhelmed and lost. Sand Crab wins, advancing to the elimination rounds. After the referee called the result, Sand Crab stowed his puppet and walked off without looking back. He had no interest in anything here. He'd only entered the tournament for the fourth-place prize, a chakra blade worth tens of millions of ryo. He planned to melt it down and use the metal for puppet construction. Sand Crab didn't care about the other contestants or about gathering intel. His only goal was fourth place. In truth, he believed that if he used his full power, first place would be easy. After all, he was one of the few in the ninja world who had actually killed a Kage. But he had no intention of using that power. The prize he needed was the fourth-place reward, and showing his full strength would risk exposure. He was competing under an assumed identity. Though he wasn't yet listed as a wanted ninja by Sunagakure, there were sand ninja among the spectators. If he brought out the third Kazekage's human puppet, Sunagakure would immediately dispatch operatives to hunt him down. Sand Crab didn't want to expose himself before getting what he came for. With his shadow clone's observations concluded, Kakashi's main body moved to Nagato's bracket. Nagato's style remained blunt and effective, a barrage of high-power ninjutsu that forced opponents to surrender. "Nagato, let's go. Yahiko should be done soon," Konan said. Though they were in the same bracket, Konan's number had come up earlier. Nagato nodded and followed Konan toward Yahiko's ring. Kakashi put on a thoughtful face. That strong female, calm, capable, seemed likely to be a member of the Akatsuki. The Akatsuki were harmless at present, so Kakashi didn't worry much. He merely noted the possibility. Rin Nohara smiled softly, clasping her hands. The preliminaries went really well, didn't they? She'd been worried before the matches that she wouldn't advance. Having spent so much time with Kakashi and the others, she felt weak, a mere healer. After 4 rounds, her confidence returned. Her opponents had been weak, and even her 4th-round opponent couldn't stand an exploding fist from her. Obito laughed as he remembered the stunned look on the spectators' faces when Rin punched the ground. He didn't think the audience ignorant. Who would expect a soft, cute girl like Rin to have that kind of strength? "It's all right," Rin waved, modest. "I still have a long way to go compared to you guys. I need to keep working hard." She wasn't carried away by her victories. Her goal was to be strong enough that her fellows would stop instinctively protecting her in internal sparring. Only then would she feel truly proud. When the preliminaries ended, ninjas from the same villages exchanged information. Konoha was no exception. This youth martial arts tournament drew a lot of strong opponents. If you had bad luck in the draw, it's normal not to advance. Asuma comforted Kurenai Yuhi, who had been eliminated in the 4th round. Only Asuma from their squad had advanced. Indeed, Raito Namiyashi sighed. He'd run into bad luck himself, running face first into a monster like Nagato. In Raito's mind, only a monster could beat a monster. Although Asuma was talented, he didn't match Nagato. Kakashi quietly tallied the numbers. Asuma, oily girl Shibi, Konoha has 10 ninjas who advanced, almost a third of the spots, he said inwardly. That many Konoha entrants meant some early elimination matches could pit them against each other. When the Konoha group returned to the inn, they pooled what they'd learned. In a worldwide competition under the watchful eyes of the Fire Country's daimyo and Rain Country's daimyo, the more Konoha advanced, the more prestige Konoha would earn, and the easier it would be to extract concessions from the daimyo. Nagato and his companions were also gathering reports. Many talented ninja from Konoha showed up, Kakuzu relayed the referee's intelligence. Kakashi Hatake, skilled with lightning-infused sword techniques, knocked out his opponents in a single blow during the preliminaries. There's also Uchiha Shisui, proficient in genjutsu and fire release, and Metkai, the taijutsu expert. Leader Kakuzu, isn't this unfair for us? Yahiko scratched his head. Gathering intelligence was part of warfare, sure, but getting referee reports felt like cheating. What's unfair about it? It's just information gathering, Kakuzu said casually. Look at Kakashi. He goes everywhere as soon as a match ends. He watched all of Nagato's preliminaries. Nagato's face stayed blank. The preliminaries hadn't been intense. He hadn't even used a single Rinnegan ability. Whatever Kakashi had seen didn't matter. Kakuzu continued. Nagato, you can stay calm, but Yahiko and Konan, you should also watch out for Mei Terumi and Hozuki Mangetsu from the Mist, Kisame Hoshigaki, explosion release users from Iwagakure, and Sand Crab with his puppet jutsu. Despite their strength, Konan and Yahiko faced many tough competitors. Kakuzu thought even reaching the top 8 would be difficult. There are always people stronger than you, Yahiko sighed. Before the tournament, he expected a top placement. Now, after hearing Kakuzu's intel, making the top 8 seemed a success. Top 16, acceptable. A first-round exit would just be bad luck. I'll take first place, Nagato said deeply. Whether facing other disciples of Mu Yue or anyone else, he wouldn't give up the top spot. The more talented the field, the more it would prove the tournament's value. He wanted to win, so the Shinobi sect's prowess, his prowess, would be clear. If anyone planned to cause trouble in the Land of Rain, they should first measure whether they could deal with the combined force of the Shinobi sect and the Rain Shinobi. The morning after the preliminaries, the elimination matches began. The setting was different. The fights took place in a circular arena the Shinobi sect had built specifically for the tournament. It could hold tens of thousands, though hurried construction left the place rough, exposed rock faces and mud walls everywhere. Still, in a world where interior decoration wasn't advanced, the style could be passed off as Land of Earth architecture. After all, Iwagakure had helped build it. A large crowd, spectators with pre-purchased tickets, filed in, ninja, nobles, and wealthy merchants. When the ordinary seats were filled, the Rain Country daimyo and the Fire Country daimyo, flanked by officials and ninja, took the best front-row seats. Mu Yue's shadow clone was among them. Mu Yue and Hanzo entered as well, but they took positions on a high vantage point so they could see the whole arena, not because the daimyo weren't important, but because seated daimyo would only end up idle and unable to closely follow the matches. Ninja Master Sosuke, some former students called out loudly. Many who had taken Mu Yue's classes came to show support. But these front-row seats are expensive, one ninja complained. Think of it as paying for a course from a top-tier world expert with a bonus ticket to a world-class event, another replied. The first ninja reconsidered and felt better about it. Mu Yue smiled and returned the greetings. Hanzo, some Rain ninja called, not wanting their leader to lose face. Hanzo kept his expression stone straight and didn't respond, wanting only to get to his seat and watch. He didn't want to listen to talk of how he'd been beaten by the first-place prize. The contestants noticed that Ninja Master Sosuke and Hanzo had arrived, and all turned to look. Obito studied Mu Yue with his Sharingan and concluded, "So this is the Ninja Master. He looks older than Teacher Mu Yue. No wonder Teacher Mu Yue is stronger. Kakashi's attention first went to Sosuke as well, until he noticed Naoto, Yahiko, and the others nearby. The respect on their faces towards Sosuke was unmistakable, the same awe Obito showed Mu Yue. Could there be a connection between the Shinobi sect and the Akatsuki? Kakashi wondered. He'd always been puzzled how the Akatsuki, a group that in the future was dedicated to peace, would become a feared organization. Maybe the Shinobi sect played some unknown role in that transformation. Kakashi felt short on information. He berated himself for not making Yamato write down everything about the future. He simply hadn't thought to record it all. Without knowing the Shinobi sect's fate or what would happen to Sosuke, he couldn't infer any relationship to the Akatsuki. He made a mental note to give Yamato a thorough tutoring when they returned to Konoha. Looking from Yahiko to Obito, Kakashi formed a plan. He subtly poked Obito, who was chatting with Rin. Obito, interrupted, looked at Kakashi with annoyance. Kakashi glanced at Yahiko, then up at Sosuke on the platform, then back to Obito. "You're really good at bossing people around. Why don't you go ask him yourself?" Obito snapped. Kakashi wanted him to ask Yahiko about his ties to Sosuke, but Kakashi had no rank now, no authority over Obito. Obito delighted in resisting presumptuous orders. Kakashi said nothing. He produced a photograph from his ninja pouch. Obito's expression changed instantly. He grabbed Kakashi's hand and pushed it back. With so many people around, if the photo leaked, it would be a disgrace to the whole ninja world. "I'll go. I love asking questions," Obito muttered inwardly, resigned. Only then did Kakashi put the photo back. Fools have their uses. Obito's naivete could sometimes produce miraculous results. Once, in the Land of Rain, Yahiko had a rather pleasant conversation with Obito.